All right, all right. Stamp of approval, episode 12. I know we skipped last week, but that's because, quite honestly, I just didn't really have a whole lot to talk about. This week, we do have another guest on, and it is going to be a channel founder for my Twitch channel. He, to my knowledge, has been following me since late 2019, early 2020, but he was one of the first 3 people to sub. Therefore, he is a channel founder. And I also think he has the longest active sub streak of anybody at 32 months. Yeah, so he's either the second or longest one. I'm not sure, but either way, it is USF4 Dave. People that are in the Street Fighter 4 community definitely know him. He kind of has a reputation of being like one of our strongest players, if not our strongest players in the PC community. I'm not trying to gas him up. That's just how it is. You know, he's right up there with the likes of ML Swear, Baker Boy, Lucan, Brent, you know, those types of players. So how I originally met him was I was cocky as hell, and I thought, oh, who is this claw player named Dave? You know, in the USF4 Revival Discord. I thought I'm gonna beat this kid's ass, and I'm gonna make him delete the game. Well, long story short, he streaked about 30 games on me, and I got so pissed off that I broke my original Street Fighter Cross Tekken Mad Catz TE Pro. It's the only time in all of my years playing Street Fighter 4 that I've ever broken a stick. And I got humbled big time. So without any further ado, let me go ahead and give Dave a call here, and we'll get started.
Yo, yo.
Hey, what's up, man? Let me go ahead and turn your volume up because I think it's super low, at least for us. Okay.
My room looks messy as hell.
That's fine, dude.
Got a freaking mouse laying on the floor over there. It's
my,
that my cat plays with.
Yeah, my fucking solitary confinement, dude. It ain't much better. All right. And of course, it switched me to the other side. Can I change this? I'm not sure, because I feel like you can change where you actually appear.
The mix-up.
Of course they would. You piece of shit, dude. Yeah, so now I'm covering Dave. So cringe, dude. Discord, fix your application, dude. That's all I have to say.
It's gonna give me time to clean up my messy room real quick.
Oh, just I did just want to mention, in your settings, just be sure that your voice input is set to 100% in Discord. If you just go to settings and then voice and video, just be sure your input volume's at 100. I'm pretty sure it is, but I just wanted to make sure.
My input's at 100 here.
And then I can go ahead and turn yours up quite a bit, and you guys let me know. I've got Dave at 140% right now, so let me know if he sounds good.
Yo, yo, how we doing? Do I sound good?
Oh, shit. Well, I guess that works. Okay. Now I'm just being mirrored twice. You know, this is the production value you guys have come to expect.
Yo, it looks good, man. And it's like the Spider-Man pointing at himself. Just...
All right. All right. Cool. That'll work. Anyways, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Dude, I'm doing good, man. We're out here. I just moved a month ago, so in my new apartment out here, so doing really good, man.
Yeah, how's that been? Because I know you said that for your work, they moved you a couple states over, so I'm sure that's been an adjustment.
Yeah, honestly, it was like 2,000 times easier than I thought it'd be. Like when I knew I had to move, I thought I'd have to pay for everything, but my company was super cool. They moved all of my stuff. I didn't have to pay a dime. They came, just observed everything I had. I told them where to put everything, and they moved it all themselves. And basically, all I had to do was unbox the small stuff. So it was amazing.
That's sick, dude. Yeah, I had a friend that was in the Air Force that had a pretty similar experience because he went from Utah all the way over to Kentucky, and he was like, "Oh, this is gonna be a fucking nightmare, like to get the funding for this and everything." And pretty much same deal. They're like, "Nah, we got movers." They labeled all of his shit and they did all the moving. Didn't have to touch a single thing. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it was super cool. I'm super grateful. Like, just because like my work situation is just way different than I thought it'd be 4 years ago. So yeah, I'm just super thrilled about it, and I'm sure you're feeling the same way with your new job and all that.
Yeah, kind of. You know, it's not really anything where I would need to move because you know my work can always be done remote regardless of where I'm at, which is definitely a blessing. I'm not gonna lie, but you know, it is one of those things where I think sometimes a lot of times people will take it for granted that they can work remote, but I certainly fucking don't because my job used to be strictly in office, and I remember those days, and I don't really miss them. I didn't really adjust to working from home quick. It took me quite a while because it's like, damn, now I'm not getting up and like putting on business casual and going somewhere and all that. And it just felt weird, man. And we actually had some people leave our company because they just couldn't get on with it. They were just so used to the tradition of going in and talking to people face to face in cubicles and stuff. So
Wait, they couldn't get used to working at home? They
that's what
couldn't
I'm
get used to the remote life?
that's what I'm saying, dude. Like that seems like it'd be the easiest thing. So I don't take that shit for granted for a second. I appreciate it every day.
Yeah, man, that's the dream. It's just, I mean, I'll tell you what, like my job right now, it is kind of like a half and half, like half remote. It's like a hybrid thing where you can work from home if you have to, but you're very strongly encouraged
Yeah.
to go out. But I can see how it'd be difficult for some people because you don't have that person to person interaction that you
Yeah.
really don't value until you don't have it. So I can understand it from a certain aspect.
Yeah, so I even remember some of the older people in our company were like, sometimes I'll just get in my car and just drive around because it's you start to get a little bit stir crazy, especially if you live by yourself. It's like you never are required to speak with anybody. So, the time you actually need to go out in public and like go to the DMV and shit and go to the post office or wherever you got to go, like it can build up a lot of social anxiety for some people. So I totally get it.
Yeah, and then also like just connecting with people. Like
Yeah.
I don't know, like especially when of course, some people are lucky enough to have like lifelong friends that you met in high school or college. But honestly, like later on in life, the bulk of your friends, when you grow up, kids, the bulk of your friends are just going to be coworkers.
Yeah.
So unless you're lucky enough to have those older relationships, you're going to make most of your friends at work. So it's very difficult to do that in a strictly like remote setting.
Yeah, and plus I think, the cool thing about what you do is you're always out there and visible to people. Sometimes when you work remote, like you just get lost in the fray of all these different names and a lot of times with us, we use Zoom. And on Zoom, if you don't have a profile picture set up, you just see initials. So like most people have never seen the bulk of our employees face to face. They just see initials on a screen and they don't know who you are, as far as upper management. So being out there and actually being seen is huge.
Yeah, for my job, you're pretty much required to be on camera, and if you're not on camera, they'll call you out. So,
Yeah.
so you can't take advantage and like pretend like you're on a call and do other stuff around the house in your underwear. You actually
Yeah.
have to at least have like a button-up shirt on.
Well, kind of speaking of that, I remember, when you were first coming around to the streams, because we didn't really talk outside of Street Fighter for quite a while. It was just kind of like, hey, you got some time for some games, and that was really the only time we talked. I remember back then, I'm not sure if you weren't working, but I do remember that you were going to online university and you had to have a proctor when you were taking tests and shit. And like you had to make sure like your camera had to be live. You had to prove it was live. And if they saw anybody, like if they saw you doing anything you weren't supposed to do, like it was really locked down.
Yeah, that was intense. Not really, but they would actually have you pick up your webcam,
Yep.
and you would have to show them around your room. You had to show your entire desk area to make sure there wasn't any suspicious like cheating
Notes
mechanisms.
or, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, the notes plastered on the wall or anything like that. Like
Yeah.
they went into depth on it. And then while you were taking a test, you had to show your entire desk area. Your hands could never leave the desk itself. If they couldn't see your hands, they'd call you up, be like, they'd get back on the mic and they'd be like, "Hey, put your hands back up." And I was like, "Oh shit!" Like they
Yeah.
did it like a few times. So it was hardcore, but it was great.
Yeah, speaking of, because you actually linked me the information for that, and I'm still, there's actually a tuition reimbursement program that we run, and I've been considering like, hey, I think this could be a good, thing for me to keep in my back pocket, just because I never actually had a degree. It hasn't held me back so far in my work, but it's like it certainly couldn't hurt to have like the standard, sort of business management leadership degree. So I definitely think
Yeah,
that'd be a great avenue.
absolutely. And honestly, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I didn't get my degree. I hadn't even been back to school since I was 18.
Yeah.
And I went back to school when I was 31 or 32.
Hmm.
32, I think. Um, and I just thought it was just not for me. Like I was 32. I'm like, I'm not gonna go to college with 18 and 21-year-olds. Like I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah.
So my brother did the program, and he passed it in like 2 months. Now he had college credits that went along with that, but I had no college credit, and I
Yeah.
did it, and I got my bachelor's in 6 months, a legit, fully approved, bachelor's degree that's recognized. So, yeah, if anybody's thinking about it, like there are programs out there, and it is not expensive. It's literally like a tenth of the cost as like traditional brick and mortar college.
Yeah, you don't have to pay for room and board. You don't have to pay for food. Like I know there's meal plans and shit that get accounted into your tuition fees, and it can make that shit skyrocket. There's like one of the universities I went to had this program called Flex Dollars, and it was basically like any of the leftover money that didn't go to one of the predisposed, like coursework or this, that, the other. You could use it for anything you wanted, but it was on an account that you could only use at the university. So you don't have to worry about any of that shit. You're just sitting in the comfort of your own home. And I think from what you told me, you can basically just complete it as fast as you're able. As long as you know the material, you're good to go.
Yeah, so it's like an on-demand service. So like
Yeah.
throughout, I had like a mentor who like she would only assign me a certain amount of classes at a time. And then as I passed the classes, I would just message her, be like, "Hey, passed my classes. Can you assign me another 3 or 4 classes?"
Yeah.
But yeah, they give you all the materials. You can check it out at any time during the day. Um, and then whenever you're ready, you can schedule a test, which you can schedule like within 2 hours if you want to. It's kind of crazy. So and then submitting papers were graded within 3 days,
Yep.
and then you pass the class. So it's super quick. That's how I was able to do it in 6 months.
Yeah, it's so fucked up because I feel like, when I was in college, I always knew people that were just always stressed out, always studying. They had the fucking bags under their eyes. They were the typical try hard student. And then you had other people that were just coasting. But it's like, dude, we're gonna be on the same time frame. We're on the same track, and we don't finish this shit until 4 years have passed. So it's just ridiculous. Like traditional college, the way that it's done on campus, I feel like is completely outdated. There's no need to put yourself through actually 4 years of wasted time when, like you said, you can do this shit in 6 months if you're driven enough. And I feel like if you really want that degree, that's a no brainer.
Yeah, 100%. Like from an economical standpoint, like it's definitely like the way to go. 100% no brainer. I do parts of me does regret like not going through having the whole college experience when I
Yeah.
was 18. I regret not doing that well in high school and not like getting all the scholarships. I mean, by all means, if you do well in high school and you get scholarships, like to where like pretty much everything's paid for, by all means do that.
Yeah.
But if you're anything like me and you're a little bit older and you don't want to go through all that, there are definitely avenues to get an accredited degree, 100%.
Yeah, and that's what I think is really cool because I remember those days, dude. I remember when you were streaming even before you were going to school. And I just remember like I didn't know I don't know, not to pry, but were you not working at that time, or was that before you had decided to go in the career path that you're in now?
I'm trying to think of when I started. I think I started streaming originally in 2017 or 18, I think.
Yeah.
Um, and I started streaming for a completely different reason, like not for, I mean, same game, but different reason.
Yeah.
But I would say I was probably streaming a lot more consistently when I was unemployed. So
Mm,
I guess I can get into that whole thing. So
yeah.
I worked in the for 10 years, like since I was 22, I worked in the healthcare field.
Yeah.
Not directly with patients, but like I worked in more of like a supportive role, and I did that for 10 years. Naturally, when COVID came around, obviously that they completely locked down hospitals
Yeah.
for fear of spreading the coronavirus. And the surgery volumes, which I worked in surgery, the volumes went down to normally having 55 to 65 surgeries every day, down to about 17.
Yeah.
And that is like a hospital's like main money generating tool.
Yeah.
So when you've cut your income by what is that? It's quick math here, like about
A shit ton.
70%,
Yeah. A lot. Yeah.
a lot. You got to start making some compensation for that. And
Mhm.
they wound up laying off 500 people from my hospital, and I was just one of the unlucky few. Like even in my
Yeah.
job position, they kept people, but I was one of the. I'd been there 10 years, so I was making more money just
Yeah.
from natural raises over the years. That I got the axe. So I was unemployed. Luckily for me, the government was paying a ridiculous amount of money for people that were unemployed. Like I was making just as much, if not more money, being unemployed than I was when I was working.
I heard that all over the place, dude. That was like, I had some friends that are like, dude, why would I work right now? I'm literally getting paid more to not work, and I can just job search when I know that the money's about to go away. And I was like, that's true. I just couldn't really function like that because I feel like, unless I know for a fact that my income is a guaranteed thing, I just naturally stress the fuck out about it. Because if I was at, the end of it and there's like, oh, there's 90 days of this left, this has to happen. And then, if you can't make it happen in time, then you second guess yourself. And I just didn't want to go through all that. But yeah, I definitely think that that was a great setup for a lot of people. And the cool thing is, a lot of those companies were doing pretty good severance packages too. So, you know, it depended on, like you said, the amount of time that you were with them, your position, and your overall pay grade. But some people got really good severance packages, and they ended up getting taken care of for like 1 to 2 years, which was great.
Yeah, I wish I would have gotten taken care of for 1 to 2 years. I mean, I wound up getting taken care of anyways by the government.
Yeah,
But yeah, they gave me a severance package. It was like enough to cover me for like 2 months or something like that.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I knew like even though the money was good, I'm gonna be honest, I was kind of like I lost my job. I'm gonna enjoy myself for a little bit because I'm in this crappy situation and the government's getting me money.
yeah,
But I did know that one day this money is gonna run out,
yeah,
and I am going to be in a position to find a better job than what I had before that pays a lot more by the time that this money runs out. So that's why I did what I did when I did.
yeah.
Um, and then yeah, so I got honestly like it sounds very weird to say because a lot of people were heavily impacted by coronavirus in a negative
That's
way,
special.
obviously. But it was the best thing that happened for me personally because I had told myself I was going back to college for years,
Yeah.
and it forced me to change my life and to change my career. So, like in a weird way, is for me personally, it's the best thing that happened to me.
Yeah, I was gonna say, man, I remember when I think it probably was in that sort of bubble where you had been laid off, and I remember just seeing the difference. Like even now, I can just tell, like you just seem happier and like more confident these days. Because back then, you just always looked, tired, and I could tell you were busy as fuck because you had the schooling thing going on. And I've just noticed ever since you've been in this career path that you've been in, you just have seemed to be in better moods all the time. So that's really cool to see. Like it's
Yeah,
obvious.
100%. My life has like changed 2000% for the better.
Yeah,
Like I was dead set like in the career that I was in, I was dead set like I can do this for the rest of my life and I'll just keep saving and saving and I can still do fun things, but I'm not gonna it was like it was the glass half full mentality,
yeah.
you know. It was like, I'm not gonna have the best life, but I'm comfortable with this life and it's gonna be okay. And now it's like, no, what was I thinking? Now I can
Yeah.
do so much more.
Yeah,
But
man. Now you blew that out of the water. That's why I used to be like that in retail too. I was like, shit, my bills are paid. I can buy the occasional fun thing, vain purchase here and there. I'm happy. And then, this whole other career path opened up, and I'm like, I think the same thing. It's like, dude, if I could go back in time and slap the shit out of myself, I would. Cause like I wasted, Jesus, I wasted like from the time I was 19 until about 25, I wasted all those years on this completely pointless dead end career path when I should have been doing this the whole time, but at least I'm here now, and I'm assuming you probably feel the same way. Like at least I figured it out, and at least I am where I am.
yeah, 100%. I'm always glass half full, like in my mentality towards things. It's like,
Yeah,
well, at least like my life is like this now instead of what it would have been, where I would have been, 55 working this job that I hated.
yeah,
Um, and so, but I mean, if like you're in a position where you make enough money to pay the bills and you're comfortable and you want to live that way, that's like, your own happiness. You can do whatever you want to. I just knew for me, I always knew that I wanted to do something else, and I just was lucky enough to get the opportunity.
yeah. And that's actually a super good point too. Is like sometimes I feel like people get more comfortable in their situation, and they don't want to start from ground zero. They don't want to have to relearn a new fucking company structure, a new job responsibility, nothing like that. And I totally get it because I used to be there. But the main thing I remember is me and my girlfriend, we actually worked at the same store in retail. And I just remember the night that we quit, as we were driving home, I just remember getting this super intoxicating feeling of like, holy shit, I'm actually free of that. Like I don't have to do that anymore. And I even to this day, I still will have like dreams of working in retail, and I'll wake up and be like, Jesus, man, I cannot believe that's in the rear view. Like it was just so many fucking years.
100%. And speaking of that, like getting out of your comfort zone
Yeah.
is extremely intimidating, and it's very scary for myself included.
Yep.
Anytime you start a new job, I remember when you were a freshman in high school, it's very intimidating.
Hmm.
Anytime you're out of your comfort zone, it's very intimidating, but it pays off so much later on that you did that. Like just forcing yourself to be uncomfortable to get new experiences, you'll finally look back and be like, wow, I could have been stuck back here doing this for the rest of my life, but I took the chance. I liked it, and maybe you won't like it, but now at least you'll know that you took the chance and you did it. And I promise you, a good majority of the time, you're going to be glad that you did it.
Yeah, 100%. That's the main thing I always try to tell people. It's like if you're constantly struggling with thoughts of maybe I should try something else, that's your brain telling you that this is not where you want to be. You might be able to convince yourself that, like you said, shit, the bills are paid. Every now and then I can buy a fun thing, I can save, I can do this and I can do that. But the reality is there's got to be a better fit for you. If you're always thinking that and you're always in that mentality, you just got to make a change. And it's not going to be easy. Nobody said the shit was going to be easy. It certainly wasn't for me when I pivoted from retail to IT. That was not easy at all. I had to learn a bunch of systems and I had to look like an idiot for a while. And I had to be trained like I was, fish out of water because I was. I wasted all this time in a completely unnecessary career path. But like you said, it's just part of the process. You go through that process and I feel like you come out on the other side way more confident in what you're doing and just more willing to learn.
Yeah, it's funny. My two careers that I've had, it's two careers that I told myself I would never go into. I said I'd never work in healthcare at a hospital. Did it for 10 years.
Yep.
And I told myself I'd never be in retail talking to customers.
Yep.
And I'm doing that 2 years going on now. So I don't know, just don't knock it till you try it. At least
Yeah.
give yourself a chance.
Yeah, 100%. And honestly, I don't think retail's a horrible job for people. I don't think the medical field is a horrible job for people. They have negative stigmas, but a lot of that comes down to management and whether or not they actually care. I noticed that if you have a shit boss, of course you're not going to be able to succeed, but we were very fortunate. We had supervisors that wanted us to learn things. They wanted us to move up the ladder in more ways than one. And we just learned how to be good employees, like how to be punctual, be on time and shit, make sure that your stuff is done correctly, not cutting corners. I think that teaches, people that are fresh out of high school a lot of valuable lessons and things that you're going to need if you want to succeed in your career path down the line.
100%. And no matter what, like even like when you're feeling bad, like always do your best
Yeah.
because you never know when you're gonna need um what's the word I'm looking for? Whenever you ask for somebody for recommendation. If
Hmm.
you need like a letter of recommendation from somebody, even if you don't like the guy,
Yep.
you can at least say, "Hey, I did my best," and this guy has no choice if he's unless he's gonna lie about my work ethic and what I did.
Yep.
Especially if you're in a career where you're going to be moving around or moving up, or there's plenty of opportunities for promotion. Like, don't ever burn any bridges because you never know when that guy's opinion could make or break your next step in your career.
I can't believe you just said that. I was about to say something so similar. I knew this guy who was a complete dickhead when I did a work study at my university back in 2012. This is ancient history. But right after, I remember the day he came in, he's like, "Guys, I got my first big boy job." And he was like bragging about it. He was like, "Oh shit, I'm going to be working in IT." He was the person, because I decided not to, confront him and burn that bridge. He was the person who recommended me where I work now. It's crazy how that shit works, dude. So if I had decided like this guy's a dick, I'm just going to call him out, of course he wouldn't have recommended me. But because I decided to, yeah, he literally said big boy job. You can't make that shit up. But anyways, yeah, it's crazy, man, how that works. And it just gave me one of those small world moments. I was like, all these years ago, this guy ended up being the reason why I'm in like the best position I've been in. So,
Yeah, exactly. Always take pride in your work. Always do the best you can because if you don't do that, the only person you're dragging down is yourself.
yep, 100%. And 100% what Salt just said. If you feel like you might want to do something, not even job wise, just life wise, just try to get started. Yeah, just start. Like everybody says, I'm not going to diet until I feel like I'm ready. It's like you'll never be ready with that mentality. You got to just start. If you just make one step, eliminate one shitty thing from your diet, or whatever it happens to be, it doesn't matter what it is, just start.
Yeah, and it's like it kind of reminds me of something else. It's like there's two types of people in this world. The first type of person is like there's talkers or like sayers who say they're going to do something. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go back to college.
Yep.
I'm going to do this. And then there are doers, the people that actually just say, you know what? I'm tired of talking about it, and I'm just going to do it.
Yep.
Because I told myself, I remember exactly where I was when I was 25, and I told myself I'm going to have a college degree by the time I'm 30. Well, 30 came and went, and I
Yep.
still did not have. Yeah, that's right, Kendo. Do it.
Yeah.
It's literally what it is.
Yeah.
And until I actually did it, and I was like, wow. It's for me. It's also very intimidating just to get started because you feel like, excuse me, you feel like this roadblock in front of you is like astronomical, and there's no way I can overcome this roadblock. But all you gotta do is just do it, and it's way less intimidating once you start doing it than you thought it was.
Yeah.
And that's been my experience every time.
Yeah, and my experience with that has also been the second you stop, letting it cloud your judgment, it actually, like you said, it just is like, oh wow, I'm already this far. Like I've made this much progress. You can look behind you. It's like shit. I've already, like you said, I've already started this college program. I'm already taking these tests. I'm already well on my way to getting this degree. Like you probably didn't even. It probably hit you one day. Like, dude, I can. This is happening. Like this shit's crazy.
Yeah, once I actually, for me, it was like getting enrolled in college. And once I did that and I got assigned my first classes and I was like reading the study materials, like, holy crap.
Yeah.
And then it just snowballed from there. It's like once I passed my first class, I was like, holy crap, I just got me some college credits now.
Yep.
And it's like 3 years ago I never thought this would have been possible. But all you got to do is just believe in yourself, and it's not as difficult as you think it is. If you're motivated, you're gonna do it.
Yeah, the other thing I always say is like you don't even need to necessarily go that route. Like in 2024, I think it's more necessary to be more socially calibrated than it is to necessarily have degrees. Obviously, having them is always a huge plus, but I've gotten positions that I didn't feel like I was even qualified for because I went into an interview and just had an awesome conversation with somebody. I leave the interview like, damn, if it doesn't work out, the interview wasn't the problem. And then I get the offer. I'm like, shit, I had like way less credentials, I guarantee you, than other people. So, you know, if you can have a great conversation and just find one thing as like an icebreaker, like just as an example, the guy who was interviewing me knew the dickhead from 2012, and we just kind of shared stories about how much of an asshole he is. And, you know, we were just laughing about it, and that ended up being the conversation starter. So if you can just find one thing and just talk to the hiring manager, put a face to a name so they're not just looking at your paperwork, that can also be huge, I feel like.
Yeah, 100%. And all that topic, I will say that I do feel like college is way too expensive and it's
Yeah.
way overblown for a lot of the jobs out there. A lot of the jobs you're actually going to be working, unless it's something like extremely like hyper focused like STEM or something like that, or like mathematics, stuff like that. Like I feel like most of the most of your job you're going to learn on the job. You ain't going to learn in a classroom.
Yeah.
So I do feel like that the whole degrees, like it's more of like a sorting mechanism.
Mhm.
For my current job, it was 100% a sorting mechanism. People had degrees in like U.S. history, and like one person was like a chef.
Yeah.
I mean, and we're in retail,
Yeah.
but they just used it as a filter to be like, these are the type of people that we want to hire. People that went after it and got degrees. These are the people with these elements and characteristics that we want,
Yeah.
and nothing besides some emotional intelligence that I learned from college is I don't use at all in my work.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's like, you know, they're going to look at your application. And the thing that I had a high school teacher that told me this, it's like having a college degree is not going to guarantee that you're a slam dunk, but it's going to guarantee that you're in the pool of people who might potentially score. So it's like, you know, you're going to be in the pool of potential applicants, and then the rest is up to you to get there. So it's going to give you a leg up that you may not have otherwise had if you can't actually sit down and talk to anybody or give them a call or otherwise. Yeah, it may not guarantee it. It's not going to guarantee anything. I mean, what's guaranteed in life anyway? But it's never going to be a bad thing to have it.
Yeah, and definitely key features. If there's not like, because some jobs will say college degree preferred,
Yep.
but not necessary. For those interviews, you just gotta have confidence and you just gotta ace the interview
Yeah.
and those, and you gotta be confident to let them know that you're the best person for the job. And I'll tell you what, as somebody that I interviewed people when I was a manager, I interviewed people, and there's key characteristics you look for, and depending on the person and their attitude, I would definitely overlook, credentials based off of the type of person I knew that I wanted to hire and the type of person based on their mentality and work ethic that I thought would be successful in the role.
Yeah, 1,000%. I make hiring decisions in the role that I'm in now too. And I think the one thing that I've learned is to not go with the people that try super, super hard to stand out and be like really quirky in an interview. Those people are really tough sometimes to integrate into a team because they try to immediately, it's like the things that they've seen in their older companies or otherwise, they try to outdo that. And it's like, we don't need you to outdo those things. We just need you to be like, integrated straight into the team so we can just keep running as we've been running. We just need somebody who's laid back, easy to work with, collaborates well. Like, we don't need somebody, like, for an example, I always tell this story because it's so ridiculous. Some dude came in, and when we started talking about his interests, he literally pulled out a deck of cards and started doing magic. It's like, bro, just stop. Like, this shit is completely unnecessary. What are you doing right now?
I've never heard of that one, but I wish I could have sat in on that. That would have been amazing.
Yeah. So he leaves and we're all just sat there like in disbelief. It's like, did we just get fucking punked? Like what the hell just happened?
Just like he's got like the white gloves and everything and doing
Yeah.
like the card tricks.
Pulled a
I
rabbit
don't
out of the
know.
hat, dude. But yeah,
Depending on how good his magic skills would are, I might have to hire the guy. Shoot,
well,
I'm stupid and I get impressed by that.
funny enough, his background check didn't go through correctly, and that's why we didn't. Because he started ghosting the company after that. It's like, Jesus, man, what kind of secrets did you have in that hat? I don't think we want to know.
Dude, it's crazy. It reminds me when I worked in the hospital, some guy actually BS'd his way, like in surgery. This
Yeah,
guy BS'd his way through the interview. He said he was like a nurse and he actually got into an operating room with the
Jesus.
patient. Like, this is the guy that's handing the surgeon the tools.
Yeah, the guy who has to make sure everything's sterile and he's 100% clean and
Yes.
scrubbed and everything. It's fucked up.
Yeah, he's setting up the room. He's making sure everything's, like sterile technique, all that stuff, knowing what the instruments are called.
Yeah.
And this guy actually got into like a surgical room when they're operating, and this dude had no experience. Like they knew pretty quick, but they're like, "Yeah, we pretty much knew when the doctor asked him for a scalpel, he didn't know what it was."
Yeah. Kind of the first prerequisite you would need to even get a picometer into that position. He didn't know. So it's like that was a definite red flag.
It's like the first tool you need to actually start a surgery. He
Yeah.
didn't know what it was, so I don't know. It's crazy.
Well, so we can kind of go back a little bit because there are a few things that we kind of talked about before the show tonight that I wanted to talk to you about. First things first, I know you and YOLO had quite the conversation a couple weeks ago on your stream about this, but what are some of the things before you knew about Twitch and before content creation online came about and before that blew up? What were some of the best early gaming memories that you had? What were some of your systems?
Are we talking about like when I was a kid, like from the beginning?
Yeah, I mean, going all the way up until, gaming got to where it is now. Some of your favorite memories and systems and individual games, that type of thing.
Yeah, so just stop me if you're bored, but
No?
my very first like actual video game memory was actually when I was like 4 or 5, and it was a home video, and I actually remember like acting it out in time. Like it was weird, like watching it on video. I was like, oh yeah, I completely remember doing this and saying this. But it was when it was on my like fourth or fifth birthday. My dad had gotten me Mario Brothers 3, like for the NES cartridge, everything.
Yep.
This would have been like 92 or 93, which Mario 3 was out by that time, but it's whatever. We're a little slower on getting the games.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, getting Mario 3, and I played the crap out of that game. I got in so many arguments with my brother whenever we played like the battle mode in that game. But yeah, Mario 3 was probably my first memory. Mega Man X for the Super Nintendo. It's probably like my next one there where I played that game
Amazing game. Yeah.
I played that game an ungodly amount of hours. It was just ridiculous. Of course, Street Fighter 2 on the Super Nintendo. And then as I got older, I was mostly an N64 guy, though I loved PS1.
Yeah.
I was kind of in a weird situation where my parents were divorced, so I would see my dad like 3 weeks on, 3 weeks off, 3 weeks on, 3 weeks off during the summer. And he had a PlayStation 1. So I spent most of my time playing like GoldenEye, uh, The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, on
But was
64.
GoldenEye instrumental? The N64 though?
Oh my gosh, don't even get me started. I don't even want to talk about the nonsense that YOLO said.
Where's YOLO at? No, he doesn't give a shit. But anyways, continue.
He's not. I'm sure he'll see this video eventually. But yeah, I couldn't believe the nonsense he was spouting. But yeah, GoldenEye was huge. I got that game for Christmas. I got an N64 and that game for
Yeah.
Christmas. So it was like the double whammy. Um, you know, 6 FPS when explosions are going off on split screen, all the fun
Yeah.
times with GoldenEye. And then for PlayStation, of course, Tekken 3, super huge into Tekken 3, Resident Evil 2. But then my favorite game, hands down, Final Fantasy 7. I played that when I was that 97? So I was about 9 years old when I played that. So still one of my favorite games of all time.
Dude, I very similar list for me, but I think N64 and PS1 is where it all really started to click for me. Like I remember kind of vaguely seeing my dad play like Link to the Past and shit on Super Nintendo, but by the time I was old enough to actually understand how to play video games, that was kind of where we were getting into N64 and PS1. And I remembered, funny enough, I remember confusing my dad because I saw Final Fantasy VII. He was playing it, and I told him one day I wanted to play the game with the Lego characters because you know how they all look like blocks and shit. And he's like, "What are you talking about?" He was so confused. But yeah, when it was funny because the overworld looks so dated, but when you're in combat, it looks fucking great still. Like it holds up super well.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it's one of those things where it's almost charming to a
Yeah,
point. It's like games that aren't trying to look good, you don't care what they look like.
yeah,
It's only when games are trying to look good that you're nitpicking all of the graphical issues in the game.
yeah,
And it allows you to not focus on that so much and just focus on the story and the characters and the music and all that stuff. Because I don't know, like once I got into PC gaming, I was such like a graphics, you know what? That's even like the slightest frame drops and the slightest like screen tearing triggered me.
yep.
And like in games where you don't care about the graphics, it's really nice to not have that in the back of your head and just to enjoy everything.
Yeah, some of the best games I've ever played, even on stream recently, I didn't give a single solitary fuck about the graphics. Like Lost in Vivo, indie game that literally the textures are like PS1 or worse as far as actual sharpness. You just don't care, and I feel like artistry always trumps, um, raw graphical capability. You could look back at Silent Hill. If you were to break those games down, Silent Hill 1 to 4, technically, yeah, they're not that impressive, but it's the way that the artistry was done. Like those textures aren't high res, but they're drawn in such a way that it tricks you into thinking that they are. So if the artist is talented enough, if the developers are talented enough, you don't care about the graphics. It just goes out of your mind and you're just focused on how good the game is.
Yeah, 100%. And like Kendo said, art, I'll take art over realism every single time.
Yep.
It depends on the message that they're trying to convey. Like if it's a serious message or like, something that like demands realism, I sort of get it. But for everything else, it's like I'll take charming graphics over any sort of like, what do they call it? Like realish graphics like oh, there's a word for it, but yeah. And Stamp, what's the best looking Street Fighter game of all time?
Of all time, Third Strike, no question, I would say.
100%. Not the
Yep.
most like it's like obviously you got PS5 now with Street Fighter 6,
Yep.
but what game looks better? The animations and the fluidity
In
of Third Strike
motion,
are
that shit is amazing. Yeah, in motion, Third Strike is so impressive. And they built that on CPS3, which was like their arcade board platform. It is fucking. If you guys really, I know not everybody may not be super into Street Fighter, but if you get a chance, check out the AI upscaled 4K intro for Third Strike and just watch that game in action. That shit is unbelievable. Yeah,
step
Street Fighter
controlling over
EX.
here. I actually had that game, Street Fighter EX2 for PlayStation 2. I had a
Yeah.
bunch of fun with that game, but that game is pretty pretty ugly by today's standards.
Yeah, because wasn't that like their attempt to compete with Tekken and do some weird 3D shit?
It wasn't really 3D. It was 3D models, but it
Yeah.
was like a tag. It was definitely a tag type game, where you had like the super combos with like two characters, which was kind of dope. I actually enjoyed the game. I would imagine from a competitive standpoint, it's probably not the most fun game to play. Um, but yeah, that's when that generational leap, they had the technology that they just did everything they could to make. That's when they started making everything look as real as possible.
Yeah.
And some games on PS2 still look amazing to this day. I think Metal Gear Solid 2 looks fantastic to this day.
Yeah, dude, and you don't even need to. There's actually, people may not know, there's some PS2 games that will legit display at 1080i. Like you can actually output them 1080i. One of them is like Valkyrie Profile 2. If you run that on a monitor or an HD TV and actually run it in HD output, that shit looks unbelievable. Like the Guitar Hero games you could do that with. There was a Gran Turismo game. So yeah, PS2, especially on a CRT for most of PS2 games, that it holds up great. Like there's no issues whatsoever. And everything ran at 60 FPS even back then. Metal Gear Solid 2 did.
Yeah.
Obviously not everything, but Metal Gear Solid 2 ran at 60 FPS. That shit is butter smooth.
Yeah, I still remember like I don't know where it was. It was like it was at a mall or something. Like you remember in malls they used to have
The
like
kiosks.
demos, the
Yeah.
kiosk or like the demo stations. So you could actually play like a PS2 or like a Toys R Us had them. But you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
It's kind of funny. Like back in the day, like in the mall, there's like a Bergner's, and like there would be like one at Bergner's from some random reason.
Yeah.
Um, but I remember playing that and being like mesmerized because it was so buttery smooth, like the camera, like the dynamic camera, like when you're on the tanker, like running with
Yep.
Snake and the camera's following you. It's like that was the most amazing thing. And then like he sneezed and guards got alerted to it. I was like,
Yeah.
and they saw my footprints. I was like, oh my gosh, this is like such a magnet or quantum leap in gaming. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, and you've said it in my stream before, but I totally agree. I don't think we're going to see anything like that again because, that was almost like a jump of 2D to 3D. It was almost that impressive because not only are we in 3D now, we've gone another generation. Because in 64 and PS1, it was like low FPS and characters looked really blocky in a lot of ways. And in PS2, that was like, okay, this is 60 FPS. These characters look realistic now. Of course, MGS2 is very stylized, but there's just so much realism. Like in Metal Gear Solid 2, this is shit they were coming up with in 1999 and 2000, by the way, because the bulk of the development happened with the initial PS2 development kits. Your shadow being cast in a particular area can alert enemies. Like, who the fuck was thinking of that outside of, Kojima? Like, that is insane that that's even in the game.
Yeah, and that's almost why I'm sort of like disenchanted with like the newer generation of consoles.
Yeah.
It's like back then when you had a console leap, you were technologically able to do a lot more things that were not possible in the previous generation.
Yeah.
And not just based on graphics, just based on like what you had space to do and the technology that you had to do it. Like you said, like the AI in MGS2 and how they could react to things was not possible in Nintendo 64.
Yeah.
But I feel like the technology in newer systems is not, they're focused more on graphics and not on what they could be bringing to enhance the gameplay, in my opinion.
Yeah, it feels like the jump from like PS4 Pro to PS5, it just felt like, oh, the GPU is a little bit more powerful. Like we have the option, because I know a lot of games will have like a performance mode and a high res mode. So you can do 4K 30 or you can do 1080 120. Like some of them have that option, but a lot of them don't even have that. So it just felt like putting a new GPU inside of a very similar UI to the PS4 Pro. That's really all that leap felt like. It didn't feel like much of one at all.
Yeah, 100%. And I agree 100% with Kendo. Nintendo is like the only system that's actually actively trying to make those changes
Yeah.
to how you play games in like new and innovative ways. If
Yep.
I was to buy, I honestly can say, unless they did something similar to Nintendo where they actually changed how the system worked, I would probably never buy another PlayStation or Xbox ever again. I'd probably just stay on PC. But even now, I'm tempted to buy a Switch because it's just the way that you're able to play the games is just so unique that you can't get that experience almost anywhere else. Like obviously we got VR and stuff now, but if I were to buy a console, it'd 100% be a Switch right now. And I'm not even thinking about the other two.
Yeah, and it's like Nintendo's always done that. Even going back to the NES, they had all those crazy accessories. They had the different guns you could buy, the light guns. They had the like very first incarnation of like the DDR pads where you could play the track and field, and you had to like run on this pad. Like they've been doing shit like this since the 80s,
Yeah,
and
man. And
that's always
I
been
had
one of their main focuses.
I had that pad.
Yep.
Like for like the track and field, like the big, I forget what the power pad or whatever they
Yeah.
called it.
Yeah. It had like the grid of like colored bubbles with numbers inside of them. Yeah.
It's crazy that they had that technology way back then.
Yep.
Also, yeah, what was it? Did you ever play Mario Paint?
Oh yeah, the mouse and the keyboard. Yeah, or the
Yeah,
mouse. Yeah, at
yeah,
least.
it was a mouse and a mouse pad that it
Yep.
came with. And yeah, it's just crazy. They've been innovating like basically since the beginning, really. They came out with the Game Boy, and that was a game changer. I mean, there were handheld systems out before that, but that really like brought it to like a mainstream setting. But yeah, oh, remember Super Nintendo, the Super Scope? You remember that?
Yeah, the thing you put on your shoulder and it was like a huge. It was like a bazooka.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like a bazooka. And
Yeah.
there's like a handful of games you could play with that. So yeah, they've always been innovating. So that's why I respect Nintendo in that sense of how like they just make their games to change how people play them and experience them in a new way. So I mean, you can say what you want about their streaming uh,
Oh yeah.
hindrances.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of things, dude. Oh, what's up, BRT? The other thing that I could immediately think of, there's two. One of them is the fucked up way that they've treated the Smash community for no reason. Like this is your game. They have banned the Melee community. They've barred them from having a certain number of people at tournaments. They have all these weird guidelines on how many people, how big the prize pool can be. And they just have never really been willing to say, you know what, Melee community, you guys just do what you want to do and we'll support you. They have just always fought that at every turn. And I have no idea why they're like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know Nintendo, they're extremely family friendly company, even though they do
Yeah.
have like rated M games out there. Um, but I feel like they just have, they want such a stranglehold on their brand
Yeah.
that they don't want like communities like that they might view could become toxic. And
Mhm.
everybody knows all about the Smash community. There's memes all about them. But I mean, at the same time, I know it's unfortunate that they're not allowed to do that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But I can almost understand from a corporate standpoint why they would do what they're wanting to do it. But I still think it's slightly outdated.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, at the end of the day, Nintendo's board of directors, it's like an old folks' home, dude. Like, these people have been in these positions since the 80s. They are hard-headed. They know what's worked and what hasn't worked, and they just don't want to change because, look, we're making money right now and things are great. The Wii U era of like 2010 to 2013, 14 was arguably their lowest. Like, they had to sell their stake in the Seattle Mariners. That's how bad off they were money-wise. So, when the Switch came out, they got this massive stimulus package and they've just been making all these weird fucking decisions. Like, you guys remember Etika, RIP, but he was a very famous content creator that would react to the new Smash characters that got announced. And he had, like, he called his fans the Joy-Con boys. Like, he was all about Nintendo branding everything. So there's this charity, this company that was working with a suicide prevention charity, and they were doing custom painted Joy-Cons in honor of Etika. Nintendo cease and desisted that company and told them to stop doing that, even though it was for charity. I mean, these decisions they make are just baffling sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, there's good and bad with every company. Yeah, not much you can really say about that. Besides, there's a lot of their practices that are a little bit outdated. They almost, like I said, they have a stranglehold on their brand, and they're not
Yeah.
gonna budge in any way, whether that's good or it's bad. I mean, you just kind of have to take it as it is, which I don't know.
Yeah, it's
As long
like
as they keep making cool games, that's all I care about.
yeah, that's the thing. Like, that's the one thing that nobody can critique them on. Their games have been consistently good. Their first party games have been consistently good. They don't publish anything unless they think that it's of a certain quality. And generally, you can't really find like wow, this was an era where they were just putting out garbage. Like, they just don't do that. They're extremely talented people. They only hire extremely talented people. Funny enough, Takayoshi Sato, the guy that did all the CG cutscenes for Silent Hill 1 and 2, got drafted by them, and now he's a senior artist, designer for them. So, like, they scope out the best talent out there, and they have it, and they put out some of the best games. So that's one thing that nobody can critique them on.
And also their in-house games, like
Yep.
their in-house games are almost always, a Mario game is going to be a banger.
Yep.
Like, even though I haven't played them in a while, the Pokemon games are going to be a banger. Like, they take care of their first party games
Yep.
in a way that you can't always say other systems do. So they take pride in their stuff. Sometimes it goes a little bit overboard, but you can't say that they haven't innovated in admirable ways in terms of their characters, their IPs, and how they've evolved their games over the years.
Yeah, and I also think, there was some controversy around the last Bayonetta game, but they swooped in and they will save IPs sometimes. Like, Bayonetta was a Sega IP. They couldn't get a publisher, and Nintendo said, "Oh, we'll publish it." So then Bayonetta 2 comes out, it does super well, and they eventually publish Bayonetta 3. So they really have an eye for if an IP is about to disappear or something and they can't find a publisher, if they know it's good and they know it'll sell, they'll put their name on it. And like Fatal Frame got picked up by them. A couple of those games were Wii U exclusive for ages, and that could have very easily just died and gone away had it not been for them. We have PC ports of those games now to play because of the Wii U editions that they were able to make the ports from. So, like I said, it's like Apple, dude. Apple makes some baffling decisions that piss me off, but nobody can deny that they do what they were designed to do super well.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite amazing how quickly that company shifted. Like, once the iPhone was released, the first
Yep.
one, that company did a complete 180. Like, nobody gave a crap about Apple like before the iPhone was released. Like, yeah, some people still had Apple computers. We had them like in our science labs in school,
Yeah.
but like
The colored
nobody,
the iMac G6s or whatever, those
yeah, with like
candy colored ones.
the
Yeah.
see-through and
Yep.
all that. But everybody thought Apple was just like a weird secondary company to Microsoft. And then the iPhone released, and it just took off. And then the iPod, the Nano, and all that stuff came out, and it's like it just it was just like a wildfire, it just spread, and it's amazing like the comeback that company had. The only Apple product I've ever had was an iPod, like the original one, like
Yep.
160 gigabytes of music.
Yep.
I've never had an iPhone or a Mac computer or anything like that. Mostly because I heard they're not the best for gaming, so not really gonna buy one of
No.
those.
Yeah, the computers are they have this mantra about them that they're for pro applications. Like a lot of people that are working in audio studios and do a lot of things like, and then they had for a long time they had like a monopoly on the best home desktop editing software for video, which was Final Cut. Some actual professional Hollywood movies, which this is kind of an indie movie, but Napoleon Dynamite was literally edited on like a $30,000 Mac. Like that whole last movie was edited on a Mac. So yeah, they had
Really?
that. Yeah, they had that monopoly for a while. And it was actually a Mac that the director, Jared Hess, was just like renting from his university. Like he would just go in and schedule time to go edit the movie. So yeah, they made some really good pro products. But like you said, whenever the iPhone hit, that's when everything changed, especially when the 3G came out. Because the first year the iPhone was out, it was like this crazy expensive thing. The storage was really low, and it was just like a gimmick that people would show off at school or work or whatever. But when they did the 3G, they reduced the cost to like $199. You had to do the whole 2-year contract thing. But
Oh, yes.
when they reduced the price to $199 and the App Store came out and you could change your wallpaper, it was over. Like it was every kid at school, dude, was like, oh my God, I got an iPhone. It's so sick, dude. All the cases and screen protectors, like they started that whole industry.
Dude, I remember my first phone was a Motorola LG, and it was a
Yep.
flip phone. And I remember back in the day, like just to download a simple game, like what's called like the Block Breakers or whatever it was called,
Mhm.
where you had to pay like $3 or $4 to download this game. And then or for like a ringtone, ringtones were like $1 or two
Yep.
dollars.
And it was
Not
the
just
shittiest quality. It was like 10 seconds of not even the best part of certain songs. And they wanted you to pay like $1.29 for it.
and some of them you couldn't even demo them. So you're like, oh, this
Yeah.
sounds cool. And then you download it and you're like, crap, I just wasted $1 or two
Yeah.
bucks. Those are the days.
Yeah, my first non like you guys remember Go phones? You would go to like into a Walmart and they were in these big clamshell packages with the orange logo. It was like AT&T Go phone. That was my first actual phone that I used for myself. It wasn't a flip phone, it was just a phone that had a little screen and then the keypad underneath it, the 1 through 9 keypad. And yeah, that was dog shit. And you had to pay per text. It was like one of those things where you actually had to limit what you were sending people. You had to just use the letter U instead of YOU so you didn't waste your minutes and shit. But my first smartphone, if you want to call it that, at the time it blew my mind, but it was the iPhone 4. When the 4 came out, I had like begged my parents over and over. They got tired of listening to my little dumbass begging. And yeah, I got an iPhone 4 and it blew my mind. It was like having a computer with me everywhere I went. I was like, this is insane.
Yeah, and for you youngins here in the chat, back in the day, you had limited minutes and
Yep.
limited texts that you could send. I remember once I got my phone, I called my girlfriend. We would talk for hours every single night, and I can only guess for our family plan, we might have had like 1,000 minutes, if that, maybe 500 minutes for the month for like all four phone lines. And my stepdad got the bill one time, like a month after I got my phone. The phone bill was over $1,000
Oh my God.
because I had gone so far over our minutes,
Yeah.
and it was charging him like 50 cents a minute or some horse crap.
Yep. Dude, you can swear, by the way. I've been swearing the whole time. But yeah, I was also going to say that's what's crazy too is like everybody nowadays, if you ask people why they choose an iPhone over an Android, the number one answer, at least in the US, is iMessage. And the reason why they did that, they specifically created iMessage and also FaceTime audio so you could call people over Wi-Fi and message people over Wi-Fi. They specifically created that so that you would no longer be limited by your carrier's minutes and you wouldn't have to actually send SMS texts to people. And that's one of the reasons why the iPhone 4 blew up the way that it did is because, you know, iMessage came out and everybody was like, oh, you can literally just talk forever. It's like an online chat, but it's in my phone in the texting app. So,
Yeah, Wi-Fi definitely was like another like revelation as well. So you wouldn't.
yep.
So that's when like like the minutes and text messaging didn't even matter anymore. So they're like, screw it, we'll just make it unlimited. Nobody's using it anyways. That's fine.
Yeah, one of the best. The only phone that ever made me want to switch off of iPhone was it was an HTC phone. It was called the M8, and it was like all gunmetal gray back, and it kind of looked like the eventual design of the iPhone 6. And that one had an edition that was called the Google Play Edition. And they used to do this this was before they had the Pixel phones out, and it would actually be a version of another carrier's or another manufacturer's phone that had stock Android on it. No skins, no themes, like Samsung has their theme, and
Yep.
HTC has their theme and Huawei and all that shit. But it was called the Google Play Edition and gave you stock Android. And that version was like one of the best phones ever. Like it had super good speakers, reviews through the roof, dual SIMs, swappable memory cards, everything. And I was like, damn, I might actually switch, but I didn't. I'm still on that
Yeah.
iSheep train.
Yeah, I've been Samsung. My first smartphone was a Galaxy S3. And I'm not the type of person that upgrades every year or every 2 years
Yeah.
or even every 3 years.
Yeah. I'm like
Like
every
I get,
3 years nowadays. Yeah, I'm with you.
yeah, I get a phone and I'm like, you know what? It's a phone. Like I don't need to do the whole, I need the newest and latest features every year. It's like a waste of money in my opinion. It's like people
Yeah.
that buy a brand new car and then the next year comes out and they trade it in. It's like, dude, you're just putting yourself in like an endless amount of debt.
Yeah.
Not so much with phones. You're not putting yourself in debt really, but it's like I need to see that quantum leap in performance and
Yeah.
features to where otherwise I'm not interested. I don't care if there's a few extra megapixels in the
Yeah.
camera. Like, I don't care.
And you're not even going to be able to tell. Like by the time you've done the auto enhance and you've put it up on fucking Instagram or whatever, like nobody's going to be able to tell whether you took it on an iPhone 14 Pro or a 15 Pro. I guarantee you nobody's going to be able to tell. In fact, I wouldn't even say that going back to like the iPhone 13. You could go back 2 or 3 years and the camera quality is like ridiculously good. Even the iPhone 12 and 10 and all that. Like I know somebody that's still using the original iPhone 10 from 2017 and they post pictures and do video from it. It looks insanely good. So the average phone is good enough for, I'd say, 4 to 5 years, as long as it doesn't break.
Yeah, 100%. Like the only reason you would ever upgrade is if like you don't have 4K capabilities.
Yeah.
And even if that's important to you, which I mean, obviously for photos, it's pretty important to get like really good quality depending on if you're on vacation or whatever. But yeah, it's pretty impressive that, if you wanted good photos, you used to have to go out and actually buy a standalone camera, buy the lenses, which some people still do that for those ultra high resolution photos. But I mean, you can take amazing photos just on your phone right now. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, Kenda was saying in the chat, it's like everything's going backwards. Like, yeah, we have higher resolution displays and more flash storage, but we've lost 3.5 millimeter jack, IR blasters. And Android phones used to have IR blasters. You could use them as your TV remote, as like a universal remote, and for other devices. Um, no swappable cases. You can't pop the back of the case and put like a custom metal one like you used to be able to do that with Samsung phones. You can't remove the battery and replace it. No upgradable memory, no dual SIMs. Some people that travel a lot need dual SIMs because some carriers don't have good coverage in different areas. That was super good for enterprise. I remember, one of my bosses is always ranting about like there's no good dual SIM phones anymore. You got to like really search around. And I think Sony makes one. It's like a super expensive, you know, I don't even know, but it's like one of the absolute Rolls Royce features now to have dual SIM.
Yeah, man, you mentioned the TV remotes. Like that hit home with me. You
Yeah,
see this TV back here?
yeah,
I forgot the remote uh when I moved. So I haven't been able to use it and it doesn't have any buttons on it. Well,
yeah.
I can turn the TV on, but it doesn't have like that navigational button to like be able to move things.
Mhm.
And so I was like, "Oh, sweet. I knew I had a, a remote app on my phone. It was called Peel
Yep.
Remote. And I went to get on it and everything's been deactivated. I was like,
Yeah.
"What?" And then I looked, so then I naturally went to like the app store and all these apps for remotes you have to pay for now. I was like, what the heck, man? What's going on here?
Yeah, there actually Xbox used to have a remote app too. I remember because we had there was a time when I was moving and I just forgot my 360 controllers, but I had already moved and I was like, well, I don't really feel like driving all the way back home just to get it. And I ended up using the Xbox app on my phone for like solid 2 3 weeks because it just worked and it was sick. You had the IR thing. I don't even think it was IR. I think it just worked through Wi-Fi because I was able to use it on iPhone. But you know, yeah, things are getting better on paper. Like resolutions are getting higher, cameras are getting better. The big upgrade for me on iPhone that Android, of course, had like 4 or 5 years ago was the 120 hertz screen. When they came out with the 120 hertz screen, I was like, okay, that's something I will upgrade for because that's pretty sick to have on a phone. Everything feels snappier, looks better, clearer, no motion blur, all that shit.
Yeah, I gotta be honest. Like on my phone, I probably don't use half the features that it has. I use my phone mostly just for texting, surfing the internet, and like for work.
Yep.
Like I hardly use it for like any like the crazy features on it. So uh, it's not as important to me. And like if I'm gonna upgrade a phone, it's kind of like what Sefric was saying. The only reason I even upgraded this last time is because my other phone just died.
Yep.
It was a Galaxy S6, and it just one day just the screen went blank, and I put the charger in, and it didn't turn back on. I was like, well, I guess I need a new phone.
Yep.
So, yeah, I guess for me, it just depends on what features are important to you. Obviously, as time goes on, anyways, they're probably going to stop supporting certain apps for your model version of phone, so you're going to need to upgrade anyways. But yeah, for people like me, like it's not super important. I'll probably hang on to this thing for another 3 years, I would imagine. And it's an S10.
Yeah, S6 was when they started doing glass backs, I remember, because even on the S5, it had like that weird Band-Aid backing to it where you could still slide it off and just put a new battery in if you really wanted to. But yeah, S6 is when they started doing the glass backs and they weren't serviceable anymore.
For sure, man.
Using a Note 10. Dude, the Note phones are awesome. Did they stop making those, by the way, or are they still making Notes? Because I feel like they're not super popular. They may have stopped making them.
I thought the notes were pretty popular with like the stylus and all that.
Yeah, because they have a bunch of features. I just haven't. Oh, he said Note 10, so yeah, I guess I must just be making shit up. But well, anyways, something else that I've been meaning to ask you, because I always want to ask this question to everybody that comes in, is about how you even found out about Twitch, because it feels like everybody has a super unique path to finding out about live streaming in general, and a lot of people, it didn't even start with video games. So how did you first hear about like, whoa, you can actually live stream, and who were some of the first streamers that you watched?
Yeah, so I actually heard about, Justin TV back in the day, but I thought it was like when I first heard about it, I thought it was just people like recording themselves at home. Like I didn't
Yeah.
know it was necessarily for video games, which apparently it was strictly for video games. Um, but I thought it was just people like at home just like recording themselves like doing mundane stuff. So I was like, I don't care about this.
Yeah.
And I didn't even care about watching people play video games, honestly. My first experience with it is actually Street Fighter 4. So
Mm.
the Discord that we have, the Ultra Street Fighter 4 Revival. Um, I was in it, and the guy who was the he's like the founder of it, but
Gil.
um, yeah, Gil. He asked me, he's like, "Hey, I want to host some Street Fighter tournaments, and I'm gonna put a lot of money on the line, and I'm gonna host an EU version, and I'm gonna host NA North America version." And he said, "I'm gonna host the EU. Do you want to host the North America version?" I was like, yeah, sure, why not? I didn't have a Twitch. I didn't have anything. I had to buy a microphone just to host it,
Yeah.
a webcam and OBS. I had to download all that stuff. Um, yeah, unsurprising, right, Kendo? But so that's the whole reason I even started, and the whole reason I'm even like an affiliate with Twitch right now is because I hosted that event. It was promoted on Event Hubs.
Mm.
And I just hosted the NA side, and I got like 70 and 80 viewers each stream just from this tournament. And I've reached nowhere near those numbers since that happens. But just from streaming that and the experience from it, I loved it. And I was
Yeah.
like, man, I love talking about Street Fighter. I love watching these matches. Why don't I play Street Fighter 4 all the time anyways? Why don't I just stream it and just see who pays attention, and who will come in? And so I just started doing it. So I didn't even really pay attention that much to Twitch before I joined it myself and started streaming.
Yeah.
As for people that I watch, I'm gonna be completely honest, Stamp. The only person that I really watch is you. I remember, was it after the first time that we played that I joined your stream, or
We
was I watching
so
before then?
it was a little bit after, because I would always, as you probably remember, I would always disappear for like 5-6 months, and then I would just hit you up and be like, hey, I got another stick, because I would just buy sticks and I would sell them, and I'm like, I want to stop playing, and then I would rebuy sticks and I'd be like, hey, I got another stick, let's play. And then that happened for like a year and a half or so, and then I was like, fuck this, I'm gonna start streaming things that aren't Street Fighter because this game pisses me off.
Oh yeah, I got you. Oh yeah, and my bad. Sefric was actually with me commentating on those NA streams, so my
Yeah.
bad, Sefric. But yeah, what were we talking about?
um
Oh, first time I met you.
yeah.
Um,
First time we met outside of you beating my ass in Street Fighter. Yes.
Hey, and on that topic, hey, everybody experiences that all the time. Even today, like no matter how good you are, you're gonna experience that. Like I've been humbled plenty of times when I've played people. Like I've thought I was the shit, and I've played against characters that I'm like I never struggled with this character in my life,
Yep.
and then I get bopped. I was like,
You told me about a Goken player named Finocap, and you said you cannot beat this motherfucker. He's like he's like a not he's not like one of those players that everybody knows as a killer, like Brent. Like when you see Brent is cool, you're like, I'm just gonna fucking lose. This guy is insane. He's got all this tournament experience, whatever. But Finocap was just like your demon. You told me like you just couldn't beat him.
Yeah, so I'd only played one other Gouken player, and I was using Vega at the time. And I played this other Gouken player, and I bopped him every time. I thought the matchup was free. I played this dude. Dude, this dude played it like to such a T that I was like, I started thinking it was like a 7-3 matchup for Gouken,
Yeah,
which it's not. But this is just me like getting super pissed off, and I was like, what the F is this?
yeah.
Um, just because I was just so like in my own head, like how am I losing to this character that should be free? Um, because he knew the matchup and he knew how to play it.
Dude, that's exactly my experience with you. I tell this story all the time, but I see your name in Discord. I'm like, because some back in the Xbox Live days, you could tell who was legit based on their name. I know this sounds weird, but it's like when you play enough online, you can tell. If you run into like, some dude with like an anime name like Chocobo Lover 22 or some shit, this guy's gonna pick Ken. He's got no points. He's gonna just mash. And I was like, Dave. Like this dude, who is this fucking guy named Dave? And like you didn't even have USF4. It was literally just said Dave.
Yeah.
Hey, appreciate that, John. Appreciate John with the raid. Another big major player in the Street Fighter community, and he's also been on the show before, so shout outs. But yeah, I was like, this guy, and I was like, dude, who do you play? And you said Vega. I was like, oh, I love that match. I beat the shit out of Vegas all day. This is gonna be so easy. And you're like, oh yeah, I like the Ryu match. That's a pretty fun match. And I was like, oh, this is free.
Dave's like, you ain't gonna like it much longer.
Yeah, I was like, this is free. So we get in, endless lobby, beats. I mean, literally, it was so bad. I was so mad that I stopped pressing my fucking attack buttons. I just down backed in the corner. I'm like, this is unplayable. And I was like, this match sucks. And I even started to think like, this character's busted. He's top tier. And I broke my shit. I said that before I started, but I had this Mad Catz Street Fighter Cross Tekken TE Pros, the design that has like Ryu on it, and there's like a few different characters. It's like a side profile of them. And I just slammed that shit, dude. And like the cable where it goes inside and actually solders to the board was fucked up. So yeah, it's the first and only time I've ever broken a stick was because of this motherfucker right here.
Well, I apologize about that, Stamp. I didn't mean to give you that reaction, but I've had the same reaction too. Like since we had that match,
Yeah,
like I've played people and like I'll be like, I try not to slam my controllers down and shit because they're made in China and they're very fragile.
yeah.
but
Those
like
knockoffs.
but like I've been to it where like I'm like sweating, I'm hot, and I'm pissed off, and I get up like do the punko, take the shirt off, put the armrest down on my chair, and
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, I hype myself up for it, and just get mad, and like blood pressure, like just ridiculous. So it's happened to everybody. I don't know if it's ever happened to John though. John seems like he's pretty cool headed.
Yeah, he's a
But
really level-headed guy. Like I've even seen on his stream, like when he plays somebody who's really good in Street Fighter 6, he'll lose and just be like, "Oh, I should have done this or I should have done that." I'm like, "Dude, where do you get this like zen? What's your secret?" Because I just get mad. I see red and I just want to punch shit when that happens.
yeah, and then I start making excuses like he's so stupid for doing that. That
Yeah.
thing he did to beat me, that was so
That
stupid.
was so fucking scrubby, dude. Yeah,
Why would you do that,
that's what
idiot?
my brain says. It's like this guy's an idiot, even though it was like the perfect smart read. Like, it could be the smartest thing in the world, and I'm like, this guy's a fucking moron for doing this. It doesn't
Well, yeah,
matter.
well, the thing is, you always think it's the smartest thing in the world because that's what you thought. It's like,
Yeah,
this is what I would have done, so you should have done this, and you didn't do it, so you're stupid.
yeah,
And you always do like these mental gymnastics to think the other person's dumb, which there are some people that get lucky that are not great players sometimes. Happens rarely,
yeah.
but still, like you will do those mental gymnastics in your head. I've done it plenty of times.
I witnessed Exeter blowing out his mic. I legit thought he broke his mic because he was playing Shark Slayer. And Shark Slayer did wake up uppercut as Oni like 5 times in a row. And the last one, this motherfucker was like up on his shit. And he goes, "You fucking scrub." Like it came from the heart, dude. It came from the fucking chest. And I was like, oh my God, is your shit broken? He just went mute for a little while.
Dude, yeah, and I got no shame, man. What Sefric said is true. No, what Sefric and John said was true. There was one time I got so mad, I think I turned off the stream or something, and like I thought the stream was off, but I was so out of it
Yeah.
that
That's
it
special.
was not off, and like I was so hot because when I play Street Fighter, I get hot, I
Yep.
get sweaty.
Absolutely.
I like crank. I don't care if it's like negative six degrees outside. I'll crank that window open just because I'm sweating profusely, and I was just mad. I was sweating. Pants came off. slammed that shit on the floor
Yep.
as I went and made a beer run. And I
Yep.
made a beer run and I came back and I like walked into my room and I could see because I got a camcorder for my camera and I could see it was still on and I was like,
Oh
son
shit.
of a bitch.
Yep.
I went
Yep.
and turned it off.
Dude, and the thing is, like, some of it's online. Yes, Street Fighter 4 does not have the best online, but some people just have like they have just figured out the formula on how to absolutely dominate with that shit. Like some people I play, it's like they're playing a different game. They are 7 steps ahead of everything I'm doing. They got all the right reads. Seth players do that to me a lot. Like it could be the most random like 1500 player point Seth, and they can just wreck me because they just make all the right reads. I hate characters like that, man.
Well, it doesn't help when a character like Seth has so many options, you know.
Yeah.
You got to watch out for the command grab. He's got a DP. He's got amazing normals. He's
The
fast.
the instant jump down medium kick or whatever where he does like the toe taps, that shit. God, in the corner too, if you're in the corner against that character, you're just dead if they know what they're doing.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, and there's the crazy thing about Street Fighter 4, for as many characters as there are in that game is extremely well balanced.
Yeah.
So you can always win with a character. There's always hope, even though there's some like 8-2 matchups legit in that game.
Like
But
Chun-Li Hugo. I feel like that's a fucking 8-2-9-1 or some shit. Like she has so many distance anti-airs and her fireball and everything. Like it's so hard for him to get in.
I would say that's probably closer to 6-4 or 7-3, just because when Hugo does get in, he can wreck her.
Yeah.
Like there's characters he'll like try to get in on, and then even then he can't even use his best pressure tools because they have answers for it. So it's even more annoying.
Yeah.
Like Dalsum, I feel like Dalsum's an 8-2 matchup. I feel like Seth.
Sagat is a really strong matchup against Hugo. I feel like
You know
that's like
what?
7-3 maybe.
I feel like that's 7-3, but Hugo definitely has like ways to get in. But even when he does get in, of course, Sagat's, he's got answers. But Seth is legit like an 8-2, like no question about it. That's an 8-2 matchup. Like he dominates full screen and mid screen. He's got great close pressure tools against Hugo because Hugo's biggest drawback is he doesn't have an invincible strike reversal. You have to guess if it's going to be an SPD reversal
Yeah.
or like an anti-air backbreaker, but how often do you want to do either of those things in
Yeah.
high level? Like never. Um, and then if you jump from 3/4 screen, Seth can EXDP you from 3/4 screen because he moves so far forward.
Yeah.
It just
Or
resets the situation.
or the typical online where they just pick Ultra 1 and just wait for you to jump and instant Ultra. And there's like nothing you can do. Now, if you're Ryu and you don't press a kick or some shit, you can EX Tatsu in the air. But it's like when he has Ultra, you can't really do a whole lot. They can react to a fireball. They can, EX, whatever that machine kick, tandem engine kick is that he does,
Oh,
where he
yeah.
like goes through fireballs and shit. But yeah, there's just certain characters that fucking make me see red, and it just never fails. Like they'll make the craziest comebacks on me. It's like my brain stops functioning, and I can't move my hands properly. That's one thing about Street Fighter 4 that fucking burns me up. Are characters like that, the Fuertes and the Seths and these 50-50 characters, man. The Buki.
Yeah, and most of them are characters that aren't even that great. Like DJ's not considered to be a good character.
Yeah.
But dude, that is like the most annoying matchup. I hate that matchup so much. He's
Fucking
not
Free
even-
J. You know what, Free J, if you're out there, fuck you. Because I played you so many times on Xbox Live, you beat my ass. I wanted to break my shit several times because he just like mastered the lamest online play. But no, he's a good dude. I've talked to him a lot on the Facebook group. But man, God, he just had mastered like the typical online DJ where you just slide as soon as you jump, the jump knees that you can't react to because it's online, and just everything, dude. He had all that shit on lock.
Yeah, it's strange, man. There's characters that like, but like some of my favorite matchups might not even be good matchups. I just enjoy it. Like I enjoy the Sagat Hugo matchup, even though it's like definitely scaled towards Sagat. I enjoy that matchup. I enjoy like DeCapre. I don't know, but then I hate like the easy ones. I hate DJ. I hate Blanca. Everybody hates Blanca.
Yeah, I hate Blanca. Yeah, as a Ryu player, I hate Blanca because I just have to sit there and mash jab or medium all day to stuff things, and that's just never a good idea to do online because you can get hit from shit from full screen if you don't do it right.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah. So nowadays, like that's how I got into streaming. That's why I started streaming Street Fighter 4, and I don't stream as much these days. But every once in a while, I'll get the itch in me. Like if I see somebody playing, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna boot this up.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna see who's bored enough to watch me.
Yeah, and we've had this conversation before, but how do you feel about, And I deal with this the same way. Like some people, if I don't have Silent Hill on the screen, they're like, I'm not interested, and that's fine. You know, I'm not gonna knock anybody. There's millions of other streamers out there that are streaming the game you do want to see. But how do you feel about? Do you ever feel kind of locked into Street Fighter 4, or are there other games you would prefer to stream sometimes, and you don't feel like it's the interest is there? Anything like that?
I think my biggest issue is that, first of all, my name is USF4 Dave,
Yeah.
and second all, most of the followers that I did get started following me when I did play Street Fighter 4.
Yeah.
So they're there for a fighting game, if not only Street Fighter 4. And I don't really play any other fighting games, so I've already cut my viewership who would be potentially interested
Yeah.
completely, almost. Like whenever I've streamed Resident Evil, whenever I've streamed System Shock or any other game, like two or three people watch it.
Yeah.
So I do feel I've locked myself in. I've almost like debated creating just another Twitch just for games that aren't Street Fighter.
Yeah.
But then I feel like almost my viewership would be even less, and I'd have to spend like so much more time just rebuilding that viewership.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's for me, I just don't care. Like I'm just gonna stream this game. I was gonna play it anyways, and if you want to come watch me play it, you're more than welcome to. Like I'm not
Yeah.
super thinking about, oh, I need this many viewers tonight. I just don't care. If you like watching me in general and you want to watch me play this other game, come on in. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I feel like the best play in that scenario, because like you said, you got shit going on, like you got full-time job and everything else, so it's not a major priority. And I feel like the best thing that you can do is to be in a genre, not necessarily a single game. So like the horror genre, obviously Silent Hill's a big part of it, but there's a lot of other avenues. I can go to Fatal Frame, I can go to a lot of different games. Indie horror is always out there, and there's all these options. But like, yeah, I think everybody deals with that to a degree of like, like you said, I mean, it's in your name. It's the game you primarily stream. It's something you do when you're like drinking on the weekends and shit. So yeah, of course, it's always that stigma is going to be there. But it's just I've found that the best strategy for anything like that, and God knows I can say because I've done nearly 4,000 hours of fucking streaming in the past couple of years. It's just turn it on and just like you said, I was going to play this shit anyway. I'm just going to turn it on and have fun. And if the stream is running, cool. If it's not, cool. I was going to play this anyway, so I'm just going to have fun with it.
Yeah, and I think the way that you did it's really smart. Like you definitely have like a horror
Yeah.
theme attached to your streams, like whether that's watching like YouTube videos with like, like you watch the videos of like the scary stories, or like you'll watch it with like the unsettling
Yeah.
pictures and
We haven't
music
done
and
that.
stuff.
We haven't done that in a while because that actually turned into some serious nightmare fuel for me. But that's a story for
Oh,
another
really?
time. Yeah, it actually started to fuck me up, dude. I couldn't sleep. So, but that's another story for another time. Keep going.
Oh, well, I mean, I'm just saying, like, it's because like your genre, like you mentioned, is so diversified in what you can do with your stream. Like for me, like the only what can I do with mine? Like I really don't play any other fighting games. I thought about getting back into Tekken, but I've been so far out of the Tekken world. Like I stopped playing Tekken seriously around Tekken 5.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm so out of the loop. I should almost take my own advice and just do it,
Yeah.
But that's kind of like what else am I gonna do with fighting games? I love Ultra Street Fighter 4 is my favorite fighting game of all time. I love playing that game. I don't even want to play Street Fighter 6 because I'm not even that turned on to it.
I'm not either. Yeah.
I mean, people are playing it and they're enjoying it, so that's great. But for me, it's like this is what Street Fighter 5 should have been. Too little, too late. You're gonna have to massively change it up like you did with 3S and Street Fighter 4 from previous versions for me to be remotely interested.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that so that genre thing for me, I think it's what's holding me back in terms of like having more viewers because everybody associates me with fighting games, and whenever I don't play a fighting game or I'm out of that genre, there's like almost no interest. But you will have occasional people like you or John or Yolo, Sefric, that'll stop by and just watch it just for the LOLs.
Yeah. And I think, the thing about it is like I've said in the past, Twitch viewers are inherently a lot more, I guess the word would be they are able to inherently know whether or not you're having fun. Like they're very observational. And if you're not having fun or you're bored with something and you're just trying to force it because this is something different and I want to try this out, it really translates in the content. So like with the podcast here, of course, the first couple episodes were super kind of I'm not really happy with them. I'll be honest. I go back and look. I'm like, shit. I look nervous. The first one felt like a job interview, you know, because it was something new, and it's so easy to second guess yourself when you do something new. But yeah, if you, I mean, everybody can just tell if somebody's mad or they're not enjoying themselves, they're not having fun. It's so obvious. And I think that the number one tenet at the end of the day, it's like, dude, we're sitting in our rooms playing video games. The shit is supposed to be fun. As long as you're having fun and a genuine good time, that's going to translate and the viewers are going to enjoy it.
Yeah, it's like with anything. It's like I'm admittedly like me, anytime I'm doing something new, I'm very nervous.
Yeah.
I talk fast and I stumble over my words. Like right now, I'm in a sales position and like it terrified me calling up people on the phone and talking to them.
Yep.
And I would talk very fast. I'd sound super nervous and like I would just trip over my words and like, who is this knucklehead talking to me right now? And obviously, I wasn't very successful, but you just have to be comfortable. Sometimes that comes with repetition and just doing it over and
Yep.
over again. That's how I get comfortable doing things, just by repetition. Or like you just psych yourself out mentally, like, hey, this is a this is a podcast. It's like I'm sitting back like at my house talking to my friend,
Yeah.
and
Why
just
does
like
it got to be nerve wracking? Exactly. Yeah.
just don't think too much about it. Like you had this whole like thing for us to talk about, and like we followed some of them, but then mostly just kind of goes off into whatever we want to talk about.
Yeah. That's how it
And
always goes. Yeah.
just relax and just let it happen. And the more you think about it, just don't think about it. Just enjoy it.
Yeah, actually, perfect that you brought that up because going back to the kind of guidelines, there was a question that I've been asking every guest and something that I definitely wanted to ask you because I don't know a ton about, you know, the intricacies of your position. What are some of the things that you've done that, you know, in your career path? What are some things that people may not take into consideration about the job? Like, what are some of the weirdest things or some of the toughest things you have to deal with on a daily basis?
Oh man. So I'm sure most people know by now, but I basically work for a car rental company. Um, and for the first 2 years of my job, um, I actually worked in like the branch where you'd go in and rent a car. Like
Yep.
I was like the trainee, I was the assistant manager, and then I was the manager eventually. Things people don't think about, dude. The car rental company right now, like the car rental business, is like the Wild West.
Yeah.
Like for my company in particular, you can make a reservation. That does not mean that car is going to be there when you get there.
Yeah.
So people, dude, I've had people like literally show up into the branch, like the lot is empty. There ain't nothing out there. There's like an old like Wild West, like what do they call it? Like the little hay bale that
Oh yeah,
rolls
the
by, you know?
tumbleweed. Yeah.
Tumbleweed, that's it. There's nothing out there. And people be like, "Where's my car at?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "I just made a reservation for a vehicle." Like the dude made the reservation like on the way, like in the Uber on the way there.
Yeah.
And like I get it from a customer standpoint. It's like they said my car was reserved. Where's my car at? But dude, if you're gonna rent a car, you better call and make sure that car is there
Yeah.
because especially right now when the demand is so high, especially during COVID, when the demand was so high, dude. Damn, if you're gonna make a reservation within 6 hours, your car probably ain't there. It's
The
probably long gone.
the Mr. Beasts of the world, these rich influencers coming in and like reserving stuff underneath other people. Does that ever happen? Or do you have like someone who comes in and just pays? Is that how that works? Like, do you pay a higher fee if you want to reserve something in a short time span, or like how does that work?
So like you can use a website and reserve a car and it'll tell you the price like right there what the
Yeah.
car is per day. Um, but it's kind of scandalous, but kind of not. Like if somebody just walks into the store, you can make up whatever price you want.
Yeah.
Like if somebody just walked in, he's like, I need a car right now, and I need it for 2 days. I could be like, okay, for this vehicle, it's going to be $100 a day. And somebody that reserved it like a week ago maybe paid $60 a day for the
Yeah.
vehicle.
It's kind of at your discretion because they didn't call beforehand to like set that price.
Yeah, it's at your discretion. It depends on how high in demand the vehicle is. Like if it's the winter time and there's a foot of snow on the ground and somebody wants a four-wheel drive truck, guess what, buddy? If you're just walking in and you want this vehicle that's sitting right here, you're going to pay $120 a day for this vehicle
Yep.
because everybody and his mama's mama wants this vehicle right now to get through the snow.
I've heard that
Um,
Teslas are like super popular. Like if people even see you have a Tesla available, they're like, I just want to try driving a Tesla while I'm on vacation. You know, I've heard that that's the case, but is that actually how it is?
so I've never seen a Tesla. So
Oh, okay.
it depends on the branches that you're working at. Like my company has like what's called like an exotic line
Yeah.
where you can get like higher end vehicles. Um, but mostly it's just like normal, sedans, compact cars, trucks, minivans, SUVs, stuff like that. Nothing too crazy. Like even like an Audi or a BMW is like out of the norm for us.
Yeah.
But we do have like some cool cars, like some Mustangs, like some like Camaros, or maybe like a, oh gosh, a Challenger sometimes. But for like all the crazy stuff, that's usually at like what's called like an exotic branch, like in like
Yeah.
Chicago or something.
What's up,
It's
YOLO? Hey, we were kind of talking about you earlier, but no, I'm just talking to Dave about his job in general.
Just
Um,
to answer Salt's question real quick of why can you reserve something that doesn't exist?
yep.
It's basically the company's way of guaranteeing it's has every vehicle, as many vehicles on rent at a time. It's maximizing profits because we have people that will cancel or they'll just no show for a vehicle.
Yeah.
And the company, they want you running, they want at least 90% of your vehicles on rent at a time. And if you're not there, you're doing something wrong and you're going to get chewed out. So, like, as a manager, I might see a reservation come through and I'm like, oh crap, it's a really good rate, which means I'm personally going to make more money. My bosses are going to like me more because I'm being more profitable. Um, this other dude hasn't been responding to my calls to confirm his reservation. Fuck it, I'm gonna confirm it.
Yeah.
And if this dude comes in, I got the car in there, and the other dude doesn't come in or he comes in late. It's like, bro, I tried reaching out to you. I'm sorry.
Yeah. That's perfect that you said that though, because I guarantee you probably have some crazy stories about that. What are some of the, have you ever had a customer just go full blown meltdown, explode on you before? Or have anybody like that where you had to like escort them out or call the cops or anything?
Call the cops. We've had to threaten people that we're gonna call the cops a couple times.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it'll be like, yeah, we've had the people like you said that like make it last second. The guy here's like, dude, my car's broke down. I paid $30 for an Uber to get here, and now you're telling me that the car that I just reserved, that says it's reserved right here, ain't here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, man, I'm sorry. Like, I this happened 5 minutes ago. Like, I honestly, I didn't even see your reservation until you came through the door. I'm
Yeah.
so sorry that I didn't get the time to talk to you. And they will cuss you out and they'll say what I'm only thought was saying, like, why the hell can I make a reservation when a vehicle's not here?
Yeah.
Which I get, I get it. But I understand the business side to it, but I also totally understand the frustration side. And I've had to have, bro, that's why I changed my career within the company. Dude, I was
Yeah.
so tired of having these talks. And there are ways that like a higher up can like deactivate reservations where like you can't do it. And
Yeah.
he would never would because he wanted as many cars on rent all the time.
So his numbers looked better.
Yeah.
Yep. It's why do I 100% believe you when you say this? You used to work at Geico. A guy threatened you over the phone, so I told him come through. Said pull up, motherfucker, and he did.
Bro,
He reneged on those threats, but got me fired. That's fucked up, dude.
I could just imagine YOLO, those phone calls and YOLO on the other end.
Yeah,
I would pay money. That could be its own TV series.
dude. Gohan and YOLO could be their own fucking sitcom, dude. Like Gohan's audio was all fucked up the other day, and YOLO's like, I was trying to give Gohan some tips, and YOLO's like, no, no, no. He's like, I already helped him set this shit up. So Gohan's like swearing like hand on heart, swearing that he hasn't changed shit. And then YOLO calls him, and we hear it on the mic. He's like, yeah, tell me what you fucked up. He's like, just go ahead and tell me what you fucked up.
Yeah, and to answer a question that you'd asked me a while ago, when you asked me like who else do I watch, so
Yep.
I do watch Gohan because Ultimate Gohan is extremely
He's
entertaining.
hilarious, dude. Yeah, he's an
He,
awesome
he
streamer.
he's so funny to listen to. Like even when you know he's acting a fool, he's just so funny to listen to. I do enjoy listening to YOLO talk and just go in on people.
Yeah.
But like if he's doing like something with music, I'm gonna be honest, I'm not too interested in that. But I love listening to him talk. So if he did like more streams where he's like just talking about stuff, I'd probably tune in just because it's funny. But it's mostly just you three. John, occasionally Blockbuster John, I'll
Yeah.
watch him if he's streaming. But honestly, it's mostly you, Sam. You probably take up like 80% of what I'm watching.
I appreciate that, man. I know you're always lurking, and you've been supporting for years. You have like 32-month sub, but I know that it got interrupted at one point. So I mean, you were a channel founder, so I know it's been coming up on like 5 years at this point, which is pretty crazy to think about.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit older, guys. Like I'm 35. But like I just prefer like I don't watch streams of like super animated people like yelling into the mic. Like I'm not interested in that stuff. I'm not watching like the latest games,
Yeah,
like the arena shooters and all that stuff. Like
battle
I'm not,
royales and shit. Yeah,
yeah, like I'm more down with like just like talking or playing like a slower story driven game, something like that. And like all the stuff that you stream, like all the like the Nightmare Fuel, like on YouTube, like that's the stuff that I'm like I can chill and I can just
Yeah.
have this on in the background if I'm not fully paying attention to it, and I just enjoy listening to it. So those are the
Yeah.
type of streams which is I only found one so far.
Well, hey, I appreciate that, man. But like I said, it's like the old tenet. A lot of people give this advice and it's super cliche. You should do a stream that you would want to watch. And the thing for me is like anytime I watch a horror stream, it's like everybody's doing speed running nowadays. Like horror streamers typically skew towards speed running or like, challenge runs, and those are fun. Like those are a blast to watch. Don't get me wrong, but like that's not really the shit that I'm into. I don't like. I work full time just like you. Like I don't necessarily have time to sit and for months on end learn like the optimal strats and just go for runs all the time. So I always prefer to just find new shit, find new YouTube videos to watch, find new games to play. So it's like, if I'm not doing something that I would rather sit down and watch, what the fuck am I doing here?
Yeah, and I'm kind of a creature of habit as well. Like
Yeah.
I just enjoy like my nights going the way I want them to. I'm just chilling, like, oh, Stamp streaming. I'm gonna turn this on. It's
Yeah.
like,
It's like,
oh,
yeah, man. So we got history now. It's been years, but hey, while we're talking, I want to go ahead and do this because I think this would be awesome and he's on video all the time anyway. Ultimate Gohan, come on the show, dude. I would love to sit down and talk to you about some shit that's not Street Fighter. I just want to talk to you about life. What you got going on, what you do for work, whatever you want to talk about, dude. So that's your formal invitation. Hit me up on Discord and come on, dude. I think that'd be awesome.
that'd be a great interview. I'm actually, now that you mention it, I'm actually super hyped about that, and
I would love to have him on.
I'm gonna message him too, and just tell him, like, hey, you should hop on this dude do for an interview because that would be super entertaining.
Yeah, man. I just want because like I always he already told us he works in a barbecue place. I just want to talk to him about shit that's not Street Fighter because every time I have any interaction with the dude, it's like just playful shit talk, and then we play a set. It's like that's all that I just want to actually sit down and talk to some people. Stuff that's not about Street Fighter for once.
Bro,
He's
he's gone live at his work.
what? He went live, dude. He just doxed himself. That's why I don't stream games all the time. Yeah,
He does cooking streams, so I mean, it makes sense that he works in a barbecue place.
yeah. Yeah, 100% YOLO. Like, obviously, everybody has what they call streamer mode. Like, when you go live, you're not like 100% exactly how you would be when you're not live. And like you do music production on the side. And, you know, I'm sure when you're live, it's influencing your decision making in a lot of ways. Because a lot of time when you're making things from scratch, you have to kind of turn off other people's considerations and just do what you think is best. But if you got a bunch of people like chiming in, telling you what to do, obviously it's going to play on what you actually end up doing. Yeah, it's distracting.
So I'm gonna recommend a talking point here, Stamp.
Yep.
I know it's your podcast, but can we talk about remake culture?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, dude. That's something that I know you've been heated about with Final Fantasy VII remake. Let's definitely talk about that. You know what? You're wound up. Go for it. Talk about it, and I'll chime in with what I got after that.
So I'll just tell you my overall view of remake culture.
Yeah.
I am all about remakes if they meet certain conditions
Yep.
and if they're like coming from the right place from the developer standpoint. Like if it's all about money, screw that. But if it's all about so I'm always down for remakes if the older game was had technological limits or was hampered by like or like they're so old that there's hardware compatibility issues to where you can't play them today.
Yeah.
Um, if there's like major quality of life improvements put into the game that makes it almost like a new experience that the way it should have been experienced the first time, um, or like reintroducing like an older underrated game from
Yeah.
the past that nobody's heard of that deserves like a remake so for people to experience it, or just by popular demand. Now, obviously, Final Fantasy VII was by popular demand.
Yep.
Everybody and his mama's mama, including me, wanted that game remade. Um, and it is so old that in some ways it warranted it. And I mean, you're talking about from a PS1 to like to three generation jump. So, in my opinion, technologically, it's warranted, right? Um, but in my opinion, like they've some companies have been going a bit overboard with them to the point where it's almost like out of laziness and like it's a trend and we're just going to do it because We already have the source material. We don't have to
Yeah.
come up with something completely new, and we're just going to do it because we know people's going to buy it, and our heart's not really that into it, but we're going to make a lot of money doing this. Case in point, Resident Evil 3.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Fucking fiasco of a game. Yeah.
like I didn't even play the original. Like I played a little bit of Resident Evil 3 before I played the remake, and I played the remake and I was like, I have no desire to even play this game again. Like
Yeah.
it's just kind of crap. Um, but then there's the game that you know that I love, which is the System Shock remake. System Shock, for people that don't know, it's like the precursor to BioShock. All
Yep.
right, everybody knows BioShock and that style of game. System Shock came out on like the PC in like what was it, 1991, 1992, something like that. It was like the first game that had like the certain types of like 3D movement that like had different elevations and stuff. It was extremely in depth. It had an amazing story. It introduced the whole audio log thing that you see with like the BioShock games and all that. It was the first game to do that. Um, and it's just an overall incredible game, but it was extremely hampered by like the movement system
Yep.
back in the day. They did re-release a version that allowed like mouse look because you used to have to press a button to even move the mouse around to shoot enemies, and you couldn't move and shoot like move the reticle at the same time. That's how
Yep.
bad it was.
Yep.
But they just came out with a remake within the last few years, and it's just amazing. Tons of quality life improvements, and just allows people that didn't experience it back in the day or just looked at the old game and was like, I ain't playing that crap, and gave it a chance. That's the type of remake I am all about. Um, in terms of Final Fantasy VII, um, so some people have played this game and they love the game, and if you love the game, more power to you. I'm excited that you're happy.
I'm
Me
happy
personally,
that you're happy. Yeah.
I'm happy that you're happy. I'm not the type of guy that says I think Final Fantasy sucks, therefore you're stupid for thinking it sucks. I'm not that
Yeah.
type of guy. Um, but for me personally, what they did with the first part of it is it's not even they didn't even cover the entire first disc with the remake part one.
Yeah.
They
Just
only
Midgar.
covered just Midgar, which in the original game, Midgar is like 4 or 5 hours
Yeah.
out of the entire game. And when you stretch that to like 30 or 40 hours, the length of the original game, all three discs, you have to put so much padding in there that it becomes just so annoying to play. Like all the modern day tropes of the very slow walking but in-game exposition
Yeah.
time where somebody's slowly moving and they're talking and you can't skip it because it's part of the gameplay.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Like
that stuff.
Tifa taking you to your apartment in Sector 7 slums or whatever and just talking about their jobs and what they're doing from day to day. It's like, dude, I don't give a shit about all this. I just want to go do the next reactor, you know?
Like you added all these insignificant characters and side quests
Yeah.
that don't mean anything and don't have anything to do with the original charm that the original game had. And it's just padding. It's just honestly, it's just
Yeah.
lazy padding. And some people are into that. I'm personally not. A lot of that could do with the fact that I am older now, and I do like my games in like shorter chunks or like continuously moving along.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I could eat that shit up all day because I had nothing else to do, right?
Yeah. The only thing I was concerned about when original FF7 was out was what fucking Lunchable I wanted or what fucking type of Cheetos I wanted. I didn't have to worry
Yeah.
about work. I didn't have to worry about going to bed to be ready to do this or that. So yeah.
And you didn't care about how long the game took because like
Yeah.
if it was summer, it's like, well, I got 2 months of vacation anyways. Let's just
Yeah.
enjoy this ride while we're on it. And like now, I get off work and all I'm thinking about is like, wow, I got 4 hours, and then I got to go to bed and go back to work.
Yeah.
And when I'm playing a game and it's just like you've added so much slow padding and monotonous material to it that when I thought about a remake and how you could expand Midgar, this wasn't the stuff I thought you would expand. I thought you would just make
Yeah.
the area bigger and there'd be like more stuff to do that wasn't boring, and just expanding on that. So that's mostly my problem with the game. I just they've made so many parts of it just so slow that used to be very quick and very entertaining.
Yeah.
They've dragged it out to where it's so slow. Like there's a part in the game where like you're swinging from chandelier to chandelier,
Yeah.
like, and it takes forever. And it's just like, man, this ain't fun. Like,
Yeah. I remember you talking about that. It's like you expand out these things that used to be funny, entertaining little things that go by quick, and they overstay their welcome, and you just get annoyed. It's like this thing that used to be just this funny element of the PS1 version is because they had to make sure that this filled a whole Blu-ray disc, a whole fucking like 60 gigs of data. Like now we have to be in Wall Market for like hours and hours and hours and hours, and that shit only took like 45 minutes to an hour in the original game. The whole section of Wall Market.
Yeah, and like the ways that it's not that it's just longer, but the ways that they did expand it, I don't personally find very entertaining. I find it like it's like a slog. Like when you think remake, you're like, I can't wait to see this part again. I can't wait to see this
Yeah.
part redone. And you have to go through so much crap that's not fun or important in order to get to those parts.
Yeah.
And it's like I didn't even replay the game. Like I think I attempted to replay it and I got to a certain point where I was like, oh, I remember this part dragged for 2 hours. I'm
Yeah.
done. And it's that type of stuff where it's just like I need to be continuously entertained. Like you need to be putting some stuff in front of me. I'm not all about these modern day tropes that take forever to get through. Like that you're killing me with that.
Yeah, I think there's way too much, to your point about remakes, I think there's way too much of investor decision making going on where it's like, well, we know this is going to give us our money back. If we do a remake of this, like everybody already loves it. We know this is a slam dunk guaranteed. Like this is going to give us our return and a lot of profits to boot. Quarterly profits going to get boosted. You would take that. If you're an investor, you're going to make that decision 10 out of 10 times instead of that some motherfucker comes in like a Fumito Ueda, the Eco Shadow of Colossus guy. If some guy comes in with this super unique idea and IP, that's a risk. You don't want to take that risk. You would rather go with the guaranteed money option. So yeah, that's why remakes are so prevalent. But yeah, to your point, it's like I do feel that there are sometimes like just as an example, some of the remakes like they were so limited by the hardware of the time that the teams couldn't even fully put their vision in the game. Like it was so severely limited that a lot of the mechanics they wanted to put in there were just not able to be put in. So in that sense, remakes are cool because then you can get the original developers. They can do what they always wanted to do. And I think one of the best examples would be Resident Evil 2 remake. I think Resident Evil 2 remake is one of the best things Capcom has ever put out. Fucking period, end of story. Amazing game. And the reason why is because they've now created two games that play completely differently. The layout is different, like the big staircase and RPD's missing in PS1. They can be played completely differently. There's all the additional modes, but they kept all the fun shit that everybody liked. Like the tofu mode is in there. Force Survivor with Hunk is in there. There's so much content packed into this remake. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, 100%. I would say probably the second best remake that's that's been made.
Yeah.
Because they knew what they were doing. They knew how important it was to their fan base that they get the stuff right. And even the changes that they did make, like they put like the two staircases in the main hallway. Like before it used to be like just a ladder, which made no
Yeah.
sense.
You couldn't even get up there until you got to the second floor. Like you had to do all this backtracking and shit to even get there. Yeah.
Yeah, you had to activate like the emergency ladder. Like
Yeah.
it's like it makes no sense. So like they made those quality of life updates, and like everything was like just super faithful. I only have one gripe about the Resident 2 remake, and they kind of botched the scenarios.
Yeah.
Like in the original game, like the scenarios A and B played completely different from each other. And not only that, but the actions that you made as one character affected some of the things in the second run, which was super cool. And I felt like they kind of missed out. Like the B scenarios for both characters, it's there's no change in story, which there was in the original. And it's basically just a different layout of the game. Like that's
Yeah.
essentially all it is. But I'm sort of nitpicking there because Resident Evil 2 is a fantastic remake.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, guys, you're Resident Evil fans or people that have been in the Resident Evil community for a long time. You guys don't realize how good you have it. Because for fuck's sake, us Silent Hill fans are fucking dying, dude. We get nothing. We have sat here for 10 fucking years and got absolutely nothing. All we got was an announcement and whatever the hell that mobile game was supposed to be. Silent Hill Ascension, that shit was horrible. It was cringe as hell. They wanted people to pay tons of money in microtransactions so they could be a top influencer. Fuck that shit, man.
Is that the one where you play as the girl with like the cell phone and stuff? Or is that something else?
Yeah, it's like this weird episodic thing. I don't even know what the whole plot of the game is, but it's like this weird episodic shit that it came out on mobile and like you make the decisions and like you purchase points, influencer points, and you can sway the decision that the character makes. I don't even know.
The one I'm thinking of, it's almost like their attempt to capitalize on oh God, that PS3 demo. God, what was that called? The Silent Hill demo.
Oh, PT? That was on
PT.
PS4, but yeah. Mhm.
Oh, PS4. Okay, yeah, PT. It's basically their way on capitalizing on PT. It's like they're
Yeah.
using kind of like the same like scare tactics, but you're like playing some girl with glasses, like using a cell phone or something. I don't know.
Oh, Salt said that's Silent Hill the short story. Yeah, that's a PS5 exclusive demo, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay. I got you.
Wanted to mention what YOLO said. He said, I've invested in businesses and people. If you're doing something that works, I'm going to ask you what you need to take things to the next level, then tell you to do your thing. I have too many examples of companies stepping in with their opinions and fucking shit up. Yeah, because they're trained when they go to school and they learn from their mentors or whoever it happens to be. They're trained to do what is going to guarantee money. They don't want to take risks. They want to play it safe. So you, as somebody who has a good eye for these things, you might know like, wow, this could be a slam dunk. This could be huge. Like this is an original IP. This looks super fun. This looks unique. This is gonna sell. But the way that they look at it as, okay, how much of a risk is this? Are we really going to make our money back on it? Or should we just go in this direction, do the 17th fucking remake because we know it's going to print money? They're going to pick the remake every time. And it doesn't matter what the quality of it is. The title is going to push the units alone.
Yeah, that's almost like the gaming business has definitely changed as a business. And I
Yeah,
think it started around Xbox 360, PS2.
absolutely.
Um,
That's when it really got fucked up, was PS3 360 era.
yeah, because like games, they used to just be like these small teams, like of
Mm-hmm.
people, and they would just do like their passion. They'd like make games that they wanted to make. I mean, obviously there was sort of still deadlines, but I mean, it wasn't like as crazy as a business as it is today. And
Yeah.
like a lot of them were just like passion projects. Like Doom was a passion project.
Yeah, a
Um,
bunch of dudes drinking on the weekend in college that just came up with Doom and it just took over the world like when it came
yeah,
out.
that's one of the most famous. Everybody, like you say, Doom, like almost everybody in the world knows what it is
Yeah.
for the most part. Um, and it's like, and so much of that has changed. And I feel like if you do want like that classic experience, like you are going to be gravitating towards like indie developers. Like with System Shock, it's an
Yep.
indie developer that made that because they don't have all these corporate figureheads to answer to. They don't have deadlines. They make up the deadlines based on, how good the game is or is not.
Yeah.
And what another one of my most favorite recent games was Shovel Knight. I love that game.
Yep.
Made by Yacht Club Games. Like and they released so much free content for that game years after it released. And
Um
it's
yeah, dude, can't agree more. Shout outs to fucking Airdorf Games. This guy is like one singular person and he made all of the Faith Chapter 1, 2 and 3 trilogy that look like a or like a Commodore 64 Atari. That shit was my game of the year last year. I'm just going to say it. Fucking unbelievable. You guys get a chance, check out Faith the Unholy Trilogy trailers on YouTube. It is unbelievable what that dude managed to achieve. And that's just one guy that was passionate about a project. And like the shit that he put out is better than the stuff that I've seen from some AAA developers. It does not matter how many people are on the team. As long as the idea is good and it comes out good. And the same thing happens in movies, dude. Some of the best horror movies of all time were made on like shoestring budgets. No money whatsoever. The people weren't even really actors, like Blair Witch Project, that type of shit.
Paranormal Activity.
Yeah, absolutely. They made that shit on a single camcorder. On like in a summer, they filmed it, and it blew up, turned into its own franchise, made the owners like multimillionaires, everything.
Yeah, and it wasn't like the game Cave Story. Wasn't that also made by like one person?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I know. There's like Cave Story Plus Plus. It came out with Ultimate Editions, and it's always in the Humble Bundles and stuff. So, Yellow said, I used to work for Kellogg's. I learned so much about, I'm just going to say bad management. That's a lips are sealed type thing. And then I told the CEO myself that he hired a bunch of fucking idiots and then our plan ended up closing. Yeah. And how many
Makes
game
sense.
companies do you know have been absorbed into big entities like EA and just killed? BioWare got absorbed into EA. They shut it down because their management sucks. I'm pretty sure Irrational Games got absorbed by them, shut down because they fucking suck. Like, there's so many, dude. Hey, what's up, Future Mute? Long time no see, sir. Yeah, EA has EA Maxis, the company that made The Sims. They bought Maxis, fucking ruined it. They're just one of those companies that like once a developer who used to be really great partners with them and they get absorbed and purchased, it's over. Like it's just
and then
start
split up.
checking. Yeah, it's like start checking your watch because it's only a matter of time before you guys are done from these boneheaded fucking decisions they keep making.
Yeah, so honestly, like when it comes to like gaming these days, like speaking still on the topic of remakes, sorry, but like
Yep.
Resident Evil 4, honestly, like when I heard about that, I was like, are you kidding me? Like the original Resident Evil 4 came out what 2006,
Five. Yeah. 2005. Yeah.
2005, and like yes, it's been because when did that release? Did that release last year?
Yeah. It was early last year, I believe.
So 2023. So there is a what's was that 17-year, 18-year
Yeah.
difference?
Hmm.
If my math is right.
Yeah.
Like in my opinion, like I look at that game and I bought it. Admittedly, I bought it and I played it just because I liked Resident Evil 4. But in my opinion, like that game did not need a remake. Like I did not see anything in the remake that couldn't have been done or was enhanced by the remake.
Yeah, it was more about I felt like it was more about a different way to play. Like they based almost all the gameplay around this knife parry stuff and like perfect parries but for the most part it was just like a really fancy coat of paint. Like I kind of feel the same way. It's like you're still shooting the sensitive areas and like kicking them like roundhouse kicks when they fall down. You're still like, you got the chainsaw dudes and you're still doing all the same things story wise. The only major change that I know of is like the Krauser stuff and the way that Luis is with you a little bit more. But outside of that, yeah, it's very, very similar.
Yeah, they changed up Luis's role in the game, which I think was for the better. I think they did
Yeah.
a good job with that. Also, certain parts of the castle were really cool that they redid. They did a really good job with that. But in my opinion, like the difference between that, like the 2005 version and the 2023 version, and then you take something like the original System Shock and the remake version. It's like when I think of a remake, that's what I think of. It's like I don't think of just a fresh coat of paint.
Yeah.
Kind of on the same thing, the Dead Space remake.
That was
When I was
literally
watching,
just a coat of paint, I thought.
I was looking at that trailer. I'm like, this looks like the exact same game. Like I can even barely tell a difference graphically wise.
Yeah.
Like you can tell it's the graphics have been updated, but it's just so minute details. And I'm like, I'm not gonna pay $60 for a fresh coat of paint on this game when there's probably mods out there that almost probably do the similar thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Max out the 2008 PC version on Steam and then play. Like, obviously, there's going to be differences in like the lighting and the smoke and stuff like that. But I mean,
and
the original is totally playable. Like, just max it out, the original version on PC, and you're good, really.
like they did make some changes, like they added like the zero gravity like
Yeah.
existed and that first got introduced in Dead Space 2. Um, because in the original all you did was like basically hop from wall to wall and
And
like the
then if
zero
you,
gravity.
yeah, and on PC, if you did it even, I think you were watching when this happen. If you did it even a fucking pixel off, he just explodes into a million chunks.
Yeah, you just die, just like
Yeah.
dismember yourself everywhere. Yeah, so I mean, like I'm cool with them remaking that game, but to charge me $60 for that game, like get out of here, dude. Like you better be charging me $20 for this game.
Yeah, I think even 40 would have been a little bit overblown. Like I actually returned, if you can call it that. I bought it on Steam. I played it for a couple days and I was like, this shit is not worth $60, and I just returned it to Steam because I was like, I would rather spend my money on like 3 to 4 indie games. Because I had just recently streamed the '08 PC version. Yeah, it's glitchy, but it works, and it's just
Yeah,
unnecessary.
and it's like even if you're gonna do that, at least try to do something like add some new features to the game,
Yeah.
like add like a new mechanism to the game or something like that. But it's like when you just do something like that, like you've turned me off instantly.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And you know, on the topic of remakes, that's the other thing too. Is like, what's weird is we're getting remakes like within the same generation now. We've got fucking Last of Us on PS3, and then less than a year later, we got Last of Us remastered on PS4, and then they've now made a third Last of Us remastered that's called Part One, and it's on PS5, and that's like a complete rebuild, like new engine, new lighting, new all this stuff. It's like, dude, we have the same game
Really?
3 fucking times now. Yeah, they literally are starting to remake games within the same generation now, and it's not like an
Yeah.
ultimate edition. Like this is up-resed, frame rates adjusted, lighting. Is the guy on the left angry, Joe? Yes. The answer is yes. I got Joe Vargas himself on the podcast tonight.
Yeah, and you know what? To a point, I can understand what they did with Last of Us, like for the PS4 version, because
Yeah.
the PS3 version it was 30 FPS locked. Obviously, it was at a lower resolution, so I do understand that a little bit. It's like, hey, we know this game just released, but hey, if you want to play it, if you haven't played it the first time and you want to play it 60 FPS and better graphics, here you go.
Yep.
And it is a new-ish game, so I understand the higher price point. Um, I understand that, but if they were to say like, remake and then like you said, like basically what you just mentioned for the third re-release, then it's just like, okay, get out of here.
Yeah, like Salt said, there's three versions of Shadow of the Colossus out there. There's the PS2 version, there's the PS3 collection that Bluepoint Games made, and then there's the PS4, just called Shadow of the Colossus, which is like a rebuild, with super high res graphics. So, um, yeah, it's like it just is getting absurd. And then of course, there's not just remakes, there's collections. Like HD collections were a huge trend in the 2010s. There's like God of War collection, Metal Gear Solid collection, Devil May Cry, and they weren't even trying to remake things per se. They were just making them playable on newer systems in higher resolutions and frame rates and shit like that. It was like
See, yeah,
greatest hits of PS2 is basically what that was.
and that's perfectly fine. Like I get it, like a remaster essentially.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you love these games. I know you probably some of you might not have PS2s right now,
Or they're
but here if you
broken.
want,
Yeah.
or they're broken. But if you want to play them here, we got this collection for you. If you just want to play it, like that kind of like they're not trying to like pretend it's something else.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I totally get it. But if you're trying to pretend something is something else, like Dead Space remake, bro, it's just a fresh coat of paint. It ain't no remake. It's a
Yeah.
remaster. That's it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is EA after all. They do love to fucking embellish the things that they put out and act like they're the greatest things known to man. And I remember also before it came out them being like, "Oh, if this does well, we'll give you guys a Dead Space 2 remake." And I love how they just put the responsibility on the fans. It's like, well, if it didn't sell well enough, you only have yourselves to blame. Fuck that, man. Fuck that.
So I actually got a question for you, Stamp, if you don't mind.
Yep.
So obviously, I already know the answer to this, but besides Konami, who is like the game company that you just think is just has terrible practices and you just think is like the scourge of the game industry?
Um, Activision Blizzard, I would say. They have consistently for years and years and years been like a masterclass in how to ruin communities, how to ruin um I mean communities is the best way to put it. Like Overwatch, for an example. I used to be huge into Overwatch. Fucking loved it. I love how they had Jeff Kaplan would go on camera every few months and explain these updates. Like he was putting his face out there as the punching bag. I felt like that was ballsy. He's like, look, we're making these changes because we feel like they're right. Community was super strong, content coming out, people making songs and all this other crazy shit. Community was massive on Twitch. Like that game dominated Twitch from 2016 to 2019. It absolutely dominated Twitch, and they were doing great with community management. And then the Overwatch 2 announcement happened, and it was like they just forgot how to do anything. Jeff Kaplan left the company shortly after. A guy named Aaron Keller was doing the updates, but it was just like a forum post thing. They started releasing characters that fundamentally broke the game, refused to patch it. And it was just, they just stopped listening to people, really. Overwatch League died because they put out this character named Brigitte that broke the game, fundamentally broke the shit, like forced people to play characters that nobody wanted to watch. And that's just one example. We could go back to like World of Warcraft Classic a few years ago. That guy, J. Allen Brack, was at BlizzCon telling people, you think you want WoW Classic, but you don't. Remember that famous quote of him being like, I know better than you. You think you want that, but you don't. And then, remember, they put WoW Classic out and it fucking explodes. It does incredibly well, takes over Twitch. Everybody's playing it. Shroud, Asmongold, all these people playing it. They don't fucking know what their community wants, and they think they know better. And they just make shitty decisions. Yeah, exactly. Do you guys not have phones? That infamous moment where they're like, oh, new Diablo game after all these years. Diablo 3 was cool. It's been like 8 years. It's a mobile game. And everybody's like looking around. They're literally looking around with like arms folded in the crowd. Like, what the hell is this? And the guy's like, is there any plans to make this playable on PC? Like, he's obviously pissed off. And then they chime in with you guys not have phones? And then the other dude's like, yeah, you guys all have phones, right? Yeah, I have a fucking toaster too. It doesn't mean I want to play a fucking video game on it.
And then one guy was like, is this some sort of twisted early April Fool's
Yeah,
joke.
an out of season April Fool's joke.
Yeah, that's it.
And the guy on stage like starts like rubbing his hand, like he starts getting all nervous. He starts fidgeting and shit because he's like, "Whoa, this isn't going over very well. This is awkward."
Yeah, but oh man, those videos are hilarious.
Yeah,
Oh,
but I would say Activision Blizzard and then Ubisoft is a great example. Yes, I mean they're infamous for their downgrades. They always show a game at like a big trade show. They'll do it at the Game Awards. They'll do it at E3. RIP E3's no more, but they like Watch Dogs was the biggest one. I was blown away by Watch Dogs reveal trailer. I was like, this is gonna be like fucking what is that movie? Taken. It's like it's gonna be like Taken in real life, dude. Like we're gonna play this special agent. He can hack into shit. This is crazy. And then the game came out and it was like, this looks like shit. What was the deal? Like, why did this trailer from 2012 look so much better than the 2014 game that we got? And
wasn't didn't somebody release like a mod that brought it back to like the E3 trailer like
yeah,
graphics?
yeah, like why does the community have to do the legwork for you guys and make the game look like the way you originally fucking presented it? Well, to the surprise of nobody, they presented the game on like a NASA tier PC at the time, maxed out all these special things. It was like a heavily scripted trailer. And when you actually play that mission in the game, it couldn't be more downgraded. It looks like shit. Lighting is all just dead and flat. And it's just, and they're infamous for that. They do it with like every single game, and people still keep buying their stuff. I don't know why.
Yeah, man, I remember that trailer because he's at like the intersection underneath a bridge, and he causes all the cars to crash, and
Yeah.
then there's like a big shootout.
Yeah.
Dude, I remember that,
And
and
they,
I was like watching it, blown away.
yeah, and they pitched it as if, oh, there's all these unique hacking mechanics, and then the game comes out and it's literally just press X to hack. Like, what the fuck? Did some guy just decide that that was too fun, and they just had to make it a press X to do whatever? They just turned graphics options that were hidden on. Yeah,
Yeah, well, and I got beef with Ubisoft too because one of my favorite game series of all time has been pretty much dead in the water. Splinter
Splinter Cell.
Cell.
I knew it.
Yeah,
Yep, Splinter Cell. They fucking killed it, man. Splinter Cell Double Agent was awesome. But I think the greatest Splinter Cell game ever made is Chaos Theory. I don't think they will ever match that.
100%.
Mercs versus Spies on Xbox Live is just a mode that if you weren't there, it's like Halo 2. If you weren't there for it, it was one of the most fun things you will ever play.
And unique.
Yeah.
Like no other game has done something like that.
Yeah. So if you guys don't know, that was the third Splinter Cell game, and Xbox Live was just becoming popular. This was like 2003 or 4, I think, is when it came out. And they had a mode
Original
called
Xbox, yeah.
Yep, they had a mode called Mercs versus Spies, where some people would play the third person Sam Fisher like Spies. You could customize it, but then the Mercs would be first person, and they would be chasing down the spies. The spies could like get them in a headlock, and you could talk to them over the mic. Like it was the most fun shit. It was
Yeah,
so fun, dude.
you could literally get them in a headlock, and then like if you had the mic enabled, you could talk to them,
Yep.
and they would hear everything you were saying. You'd be like, "Got you, bitch," or something
Yeah,
like that,
it
and then
was
just knock them out.
it was fucking awesome. It was one of those things that I hope, and I'm pretty sure this exists now. Like a bunch of people have got together and revived the original Xbox Live servers, so you can play it now. But of course, like it's just one of those you had to be there things. You really did. It was a mind blowing thing at the time because Sony, they had this weird setup where you could get online PS2 games, but they were all within their own like silo. You couldn't just have like a unique account like Xbox Live had where it went between all your games. The best one I remember on PS2 was SOCOM. SOCOM 1 and 2 were fucking awesome because you had voice chat, you had text chat, lobby voice chat. You could talk shit before the game, during the game, after. That was the one where they really nailed it. SOCOM 2 is one of the greatest console shooters ever, but Xbox Live just had them beat.
Yeah, I remember watching commercials for that for
Yeah.
SOCOM 2, and I'm like, man, I wish I had. Because this is when I didn't have a PlayStation 2. I was like, I wish I had PlayStation 2 so I could play this game because this looks
Yeah.
like so much fun. Like a lot of those early games when like the voice chat and all that stuff was like becoming like more prevalent. Dude, that was a good time. My first experience with that was Counter Strike.
Yeah.
1.6.
1.6. Hell yeah.
That was my first experience playing an online game. I actually gone over to my aunt's house, and we're just hanging out. When you're a kid, you go to your aunt's house, you're like, oh, this is gonna suck.
Yeah.
But my aunt's cool. But I go over there, and like her husband was like, hey, we'll play a game, and I was like, fuck yeah, let's get out of here, let's play
Yeah.
a game. He brought me to his computer, and he showed me Counter Strike, and I was like, I was because my only experience with multiplayer shooters was GoldenEye. Uh, so I'm playing this game and I'm like blown away. This is probably like 2004, 2005, maybe, I think. Um, and I was completely blown away. I was like, this shit's actually real. Like these people are people at other computers
Yeah.
around the world,
I'm
like
connected to
playing.
other players. I remember having that feeling too. I'm like, what? We're all talking to each other. This is
And
insane.
and we can text, and they're
Yeah.
talking. That's this guy talking to me. Is this dude? And I'm like,
Yeah.
that type of thing. So that was my first experience like online. But yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and honestly, back then, I feel like Counter Strike had the formula kind of figured out. Source was the one that really got me addicted because, even when I was playing it, I love Half Life and I love Half Life 2, but something about the Source 1 engine of Half Life 2, that one just, it was so fucking good, man. Like Counter Strike Source, even to this day, just plays so fluid, so perfect. And I feel like for me, when Go came out, it just lost something, and I don't think they ever got it back.
That engine was revolutionary when it came out
It was,
because
yeah.
it introduced like was that like the first like really heavily like physics based engine?
Yeah, it was the first one where you could freely pick up like anything and just throw it and just see what happens. Like,
And
yeah,
and it would have weight to it. Like the weight
yeah,
was like proportionally distributed. Like I remember like the puzzles in Half-Life 2 where you had to put like the cement blocks on like a whatever you call it, like a teeter-totter type thing.
yeah.
It's like this
Dude,
is crazy.
I don't know if you guys have ever heard about this. So here's a crazy story about my dad. He used to actually be a PC beta tester, and he was a PC beta tester for a really cool peripheral called the Novent Falcon. I don't know if you've ever heard of that or seen it, but basically it was a controller that had three like arms on it, and they were all motorized, and it had a pistol grip, and you would hold on to the pistol grip, and it acted as your mouse in the game. So you could shoot like a machine gun, you could shoot a pistol. They would all have different kickback, and it was fucking really cool. But that company went under because it was just like one of those weird, in the 2000s and early 2010s, there were all these weird peripherals. Like I remember a company was trying to come out with a glove that would replace your keyboard, all kinds of stuff.
Nintendo Power Glove, baby.
Yeah. And, but yeah, check out the Novent Falcon. It's fucking really cool. There's some videos from like game collectors on YouTube that have them, but it was just a really unique thing that I remember playing Half-Life 2 on and just having my mind blown by it.
Speaking of that feedback, I remember back in the day on N64 when the Rumble Pack came out.
Oh
That was
yeah, for
all the
Star
hype.
Fox. Yeah, it came out for Star Fox originally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was like packaged with Star Fox
Yep.
because like, that was the game, like shooting the lasers, crashing into stuff. And I think it would just rumble around. Now it's, I mean, you gotta think about like a lot of the innovations we see today, like in controllers and just in general. Like Nintendo started that shit. Like,
100% because Sony,
like
they didn't come out with the DualShock that had Rumble until Nintendo did it. Before
well,
when the PS1 came out, it just had a D-pad and four face buttons and then the triggers.
yeah, and then Nintendo had the joystick, and
Yep.
so then you had to have the analog sticks, and
Yep.
then they introduced the Rumble. So it's and then the motion controls. How many? There's motion controls in like all the controllers now,
Yeah. You got like all the controllers, you can tilt them, you got the touch sliders and things. And,
which I never use, but
yeah, whenever Nintendo put out the Wii, everybody was like scrambling to copy it. Like PS3 had the
bro.
PS Move that did horrible, and then Xbox had the Kinect, which is such a fucking meme, but it created one of the funniest YouTube videos of all time. So shout outs
Bro,
to that at least.
the Move was like the most blatant copy I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah,
Like I could not believe they had the balls to do that.
yeah, that was fucking. And they had the really big colored balls on the end. Now they did actually end up using that in a better way because those ended up working with the original PSVR, so they were able to repurpose them. But holy shit, yeah, the original iteration of that was so bad. Like they didn't have any games that were actually worth it. They were all gimmicky as fuck, and nobody cared.
Yeah, I remember people like when the Kinect came out, people were like, "Yo, I tested this out in Best Buy, and this I'll tell you what, the Wii is dead. This is the future." And
Yeah.
then like nobody bought it.
The only thing people bought on it was the Kinect Adventures that was bundled with it, and then everybody bought Dance Central. That was like the only thing that people actually gave a shit about was the dancing game. And then outside
That's
of
like,
that, I literally could not tell you a single game. I do know that Kinect Star Wars existed because it gave us that meme ass I'm Han Solo song, which is awesome. But yeah.
well, wasn't there also like the at the E3 some guy was like pretending to play it or something like that?
Yeah, he was like lightsaber on, which is not even a real, like he was literally just miming the whole fucking thing. It was a scripted sequence.
Yeah,
So
it just gives
stupid.
us one of those cringe E3 moments.
Yeah. And then of course the he's gonna lay down some earth You know, they're like doing the painting with Connect, and it's just a fucking wall of brown shit that he just throws onto the wall. Like, how appropriate, dude.
But you know what? I'm so glad that that happened because it just gives us funny things to think about and to make fun of. So I'm
Yeah.
glad it was a thing. I'm sorry about their losses for the development and not selling any systems, but
Dude,
cheers.
the Connect when it first came out sold really well, but the problem is nobody bought it after that because they realized, oh, dude, we're just fucking beta testers for this cheap ass little thing. Like, it was literally a low quality webcam that was delayed. That's all it was. It was nothing impressive.
And wasn't there some conspiracy where it was like always on and like recording you and stuff?
No conspiracy, dude. This is not. I don't even have a tinfoil hat on. There's no tinfoil under here, but it actually got leaked in 2019 that they were hiring contractors to review the recorded audio. So they were
No
hiring
way.
they were hiring like hundreds, if not thousands, of contractors to pour through the recorded audio for some reason that nobody knows. And that's not alleged. You can look that shit up. They really did it.
Did you have to be online to use the Connect?
No, not until the Xbox One. But for a lot of the games, they did require Xbox Live functionality to like download, DLC and stuff. So if you were connected to the internet and you had a Connect in your 360 or your original Xbox One, there's a high likelihood that Microsoft still has your voice stored somewhere.
Has all your shenanigans stored in a locker somewhere underground?
Yeah.
Oh,
Uh, but
I'm
yeah,
curious, did they make you like sign like or like accept an agreement that had that in there? Like in the clause? Like your footage may be kept and reviewed by Microsoft staff.
probably. They probably did it the same way Apple did, where they'll just sneak it into the terms of service. And it's like, well, you can't use the shit until you agree anyway. So what are you going to do? Disagree? No, but yeah, nobody reads EULAs. Nobody reads terms of service. They're just going to click agree. It's like, take me to the fucking game so I can dance the worm. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, I just didn't know if anybody like tried to take like legal action against them after it was found out.
Yeah. I mean, they probably should have, but there's probably no way for us to know like the depth of the actual amount of footage they have, but it's
Oh
got to
yeah,
be a lot.
and how are you supposed to know that they have your footage?
Yeah, that's the
You
other
know?
thing. But yeah, that's what's crazy too about I think the gaming industry now is so corporate and it's so full of suits making decisions that consumers ultimately don't want and they know that people don't want, but they can get away with it. And they're trying to now especially they're trying to see how much they can get away with or what people will actually put up with before, they say that we've had enough. Like now there's all this controversy about like these consultation companies. There's like this Sweet Baby Inc. thing. It's like they're calling it Gamergate 2.0 because they're trying to force like diversity into games or whatever. And that's neither here nor there. Like I'm strictly talking about shitty decisions on remakes, horrible mobile games coming out that are just cash grabs. Like you move 2 inches and then you have to pay if you want to play, or you wait 24 hours like they did with Dungeon Keeper. It just seems like there's so much corporate bullshit just diluting good quality games nowadays that you have to look so much harder for them.
Yeah, they've become too successful for their own good. Like
Yeah.
they had so much success and like I feel like yeah, it was definitely going into the PS2, Xbox 360 era that they've started like especially with the whole downloadable content stuff. They're like, wow, this is going to be a huge money generating tool, and they
Yeah.
just like instead of like using it to, like in good faith, they saw it from a corporate monetary standpoint and kind of went bad faith with a lot of things. But like you said, it depends on the developer, but like that's why I'm not interested in buying any new systems. Like if there's a game I really want and it's on PC, I'll play it. Um, still believe there are some AAA developers out there that are still doing good work, like Bethesda. I think they're still doing good work with the Doom releases
Yep.
and all that. That's definitely a good game. But that's like the diamond in the rough. That's like 5% of these games are great, and the rest are like corporate cash grabs and I don't know. I used to look forward to the new features for games and systems that weren't available on older systems. And I'm not seeing anything on PS5 or what Xbox X, what's the newest Xbox called?
Series X, I think. Yeah.
The Series X. Like I've seen nothing on these systems that like wow, you couldn't have done that on the PS4
Yeah.
or the Xbox One. It's just a graphical upgrade and maybe some new features for online, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just an old jaded gamer. Who knows?
Well, I was actually going to say, to their credit, I actually like worthwhile DLC. Like Rockstar in the beginning did DLC so fucking well. Lost in the Damned and Ballad of Gay Tony as DLC for GTA 4. Those were both fucking hours and hours and hours of content. New songs on all the radio stations, new characters, new things that are going on while Nico Bellic is doing his thing. Like those were so worthwhile, and they were only like $10 each. Like hell yeah, I'll pay that shit every time. Red Dead Redemption had one of my favorite DLCs of all time, Undead Nightmare. Hours long. There's like the 4 horses of the apocalypse that you can ride. The soundtrack is fucking awesome. But unfortunately, yeah, they have changed from expansions into, oh, you can get your fucking stormtrooper to do a pelvic thrust and you're going to pay us $1.99 for it in Star Wars Battlefront. Like just stupid shit that nobody needs or wants.
Yeah, it's the small cosmetic, like nickel and diming you stuff.
Yeah, a gun that's painted blue and you want to charge me $5, something like that. Just stupid stuff.
right. Or like character model in a game that you'll never see your character model in.
Yeah. I always tell this story too. The $14.99 sniper rifle in Black Ops 4. This is what killed me with Call of Duty. There was a sniper rifle called like the Valhalla sniper. It was like it had wings and it had like this cool ass scope and everything. And it was a modified version of this 50 caliber sniper that was in the game. And they wanted to charge $14.99 for it. I'm like, cool, I'll put down the $14.99 and just get this gun because I'm playing this game a lot. But it didn't unlock the gun. It unlocked a battle pass tier or whatever the fuck that is, where it's like I had to complete all these challenges that when completed, then I could have the gun. But only if I set the battle pass to be not the standard thing. Like, dude, fuck right out of here. I spent the time to do it, but then I was like, you know what? That's it. I'm never doing anything like this ever again. And I'm proud to say I've not spent a penny on microtransactions ever since. Not a fucking penny.
Yeah, and the other bullshit that gets me is like the pre-order content.
Yeah.
It's like you've already made the content for the game, and you're intentionally not including it with the game just so that you can entice some person into buying it when they don't know if it's going to be good or not.
Fucking day one DLC too. It's like you're going to sit here at a trade show and announce 2 entire DLC things. If you have these DLCs planned this early, why couldn't any of this even just be in the game? I was also pissed off about Borderlands 2. I'm a huge Borderlands 1 and 2 fan, but after that, not so much. But Borderlands 2 had this like creature arena thing, which was a cool idea, but it was only a pre-order bonus. And if you didn't pre-order, well, there's a big chunk of the game you just don't get access to. Awesome.
Yeah, and sometimes they wind up re-releasing it anyways, like a year later or something like that, or like 6 months after the game's out. I don't know. It's just scandalous and shady. Like, what was it? The only reason I bought Wolfenstein, like when they remade Wolfenstein that came out,
Yep.
the only reason I bought that game is because it came with the beta of Doom. And I was like, because I was super hyped about Doom, and I was like, oh shit, I get to play a beta of Doom. I mean, Wolfenstein was fun too, but um, and then the beta wound up just being the multiplayer, and I was like, son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Like the one part of Doom that I don't give a crap about, like it's the multiplayer.
Now that I do say, I do kind of miss when they used to do that, because the earliest example I remember was Zone of the Enders having a Metal Gear Solid 2 demo on it, the tanker demo, where like all the character portraits are all weird and like not final yet. And then also, wasn't Kojima, but later on, Microsoft released Crackdown in 2007, and it had the Halo 3 demo on it. And that was fucking, everybody bought Crackdown because it had the Halo 3 demo on it.
Yo, Crackdown was a super cool game. Like,
Fuck yeah, it was.
I got the demo when the demo was released on 360. I played the crap out of that demo.
Yeah.
That game was super fun. I loved that game.
Yeah, Crackdown 1 was a super unique game. It was basically like, it was like GTA, but it was more mixed with like comic book. Like basically you were a super soldier, and there were so many different ways you could play it. Like if you used your gun a lot and got into gunfights, these little gems would drop that had guns on them, and you would scoop all that up, and it would increase your gun, like your gunplay skills. It would give you more abilities. If you drove a lot, you would get driving upgrades. The way that I like to play it is just agility, where you would just jump and like scale buildings and shit, and you would just find these hidden agility orbs, and it would just level up your agility over time, so you could jump higher, further. And I would just spend hours like climbing over the skyscrapers and all that shit.
Yeah, that game was super fun. That's what I did too. I looked for all the agility orbs because I loved just like jumping from buildings and all that.
Yep.
And honestly, that game reminded me of another one. Did you ever play Prototype?
Yeah. Prototype 2, I remember, was a big flop commercially, but Prototype 1 was awesome.
Yeah, Prototype was super cool. So it's almost like the exact same premise almost. It's like
Yeah.
big sandbox in the city, you could climb buildings, but you basically just like absorbed people to increase your powers.
Yep.
And some people would have like some like you might like absorb a soldier and then your like firearm powers increased because you absorb his knowledge of how to use firearms.
Yep.
But yeah, that was another game that was super cool back in the day that yeah, unfortunately wound up flopping with the second release.
Yeah. Yeah, Assault 100%. Infamous 1 was fucking awesome. Infamous 2 was cool. And then Second Son, I felt like was a little bit far off, but Infamous 1 I always felt like was really cool. And they are all very similar games. It's like you basically are a superhero and you have this big open New York City type city to run around in. Not everything is destructible, but yeah, there were a lot of just fun kind of open world games.
And wasn't Infamous 2 like a PS4 launch title?
The Second Son was. I think Infamous 2 was still on PS3. That was like 2011 or something like that.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, Infamous 1 was '09. I remember, oddly enough, because they put that character as a DLC character in the Uncharted 2 multiplayer. So, yeah, whatever that guy's name is, I can't remember. But you could get like these skins of, you could get like these skins in Uncharted 2 multiplayer and it would do stuff like that.
Strange.
Dude, that game had fucking awesome multiplayer. Naughty Dog is one of those companies that until very, very recently, I felt like had like one of the best batting averages of any developer. Because Uncharted 2 multiplayer, you ever play Uncharted 2 before or any of the Uncharted games?
Yeah, I played and beat the first one.
Yeah.
And then I want to say I beat the second one too, but I didn't play the third one.
Yeah, Uncharted 2 introduced this mechanic where you could hang over the edge and grab somebody and pull them down. Like there was just really like you could choke them out from behind, you could do melee attacks from the front, you could pull them over edges, and you could actually do all of that in multiplayer. All the cool stuff that you could do in single player was all there in multiplayer, and it was an instant kill when you did it. So there was all kinds of strategies. Like you could just camp in a corner, and like there would be all these spots that people would discover where you weren't supposed to be able to hang off of it, but you could, and you could just grab everybody as they ran past. Like it was really, really fun.
Yeah, I never played the multiplayer for that game, but I do remember like playing the single player and liking it a lot and being impressed by a lot of the like the whatever you call it, like the scene cut
The cutscenes.
yeah, what do they call it? Something pieces. I don't know, but
Oh, the set pieces. Yeah.
set pieces. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I was pretty impressed by it. It's very like cinematic and it's crazy to me because like when I think Naughty Dog, I think Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah. Yeah, or
Like I
Jack
don't
and
think
Daxter. Yeah.
yeah, Jack and Daxter, and it's like now they're making like freaking uh Last of Us and all this stuff, and I'm like, what? That's a
Yeah.
very big
These
departure from
super
what they're used to making.
yeah, super dramatic, you know, grounded in reality games now. I mean, it's fictional obviously, but um so this was a question I cooked up, as the kids say, when they say let me cook. I don't know, I'm too old to be saying this, but this was something I specifically wanted to ask you because you may not remember this, and I'll bring it up if it comes up, but you said something to me a few years ago that I still think about all the fucking time. What's up, Faye, by the way? What I wanted to ask you is, what's one thing you would recommend people who are just like living online 24/7? The term terminally online exists for a reason. And what do you think some people should do to kind of break out of that and broaden their horizons a little bit?
I would say so. I what I live by, like one of the words I live by, is nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Yep.
So you don't know what you're missing until you go out there and try to find it. So I like honestly, like me myself, like even now when I'm at home, I'm kind of like a recluse.
Mm,
Like if somebody knocks on my door, I don't want to answer it. I'd rather just hide in my house and not have to answer it.
yeah.
But
Hey, what's up,
I,
Gohan?
I but in terms of like I'm gonna sort of associate with this, but like I love being inside. I don't like going outside too much, but once you experience it, you'll be like, wow, this is what I was missing. Like, I can, when I visited my brother lives in China, in Beijing.
Yep.
I had never been out of the country. I had no desire to really leave the country. I'm kind of like everybody. It's like, oh, maybe I'll go to Europe sometime, maybe someday, maybe. Um, but I went and visited my brother in China, and I was like, wow, this world is so huge and so diverse, and this is such a culture shock that I was like mesmerized by it. I couldn't talk to anybody. I couldn't do anything. simple. Like even the simplest tasks I couldn't do, like buy something at a store because I didn't know how to speak the language. I didn't
Yeah.
know how to count money. I didn't know how to do anything. And it's kind of tied into like just getting out of your comfort zone and just experiencing things because from that, now I've wanted to travel everywhere. Like I get hyped off of it. I'm like, I went to Colombia and Mexico. I can't speak Spanish. I barely know how to order a beer in
Yeah.
Espanol.
Yep.
But just that feeling of like being in that situation is like it's thrilling. Like it's very I don't know. It's a like very like high octane feeling where you're like, oh shit, I gotta get my shit together and explore, and it's really fun. And after you do it, you're like, man, I went to another country and I did all this stuff and I didn't even know how to speak the language, and it was a blast. And not saying go outside your house, going outside your house is like on the same level, but
Yeah.
it's like, dude, just get out there and just do some stuff. Whether that's something as simple as like going to a coffee shop, like go online, go on Google, look up a cool coffee shop in your neighborhood, and just go out there and just chill. And I guarantee you, you'll feel better than if you just stayed home and did nothing all day. Like just something simple like that. Like just explore, go outside because I feel like definitely in this day and age where technology and YouTube and your phone, it's so easy to stay inside because you feel like you got the world at your fingertips and you can do everything sitting inside your house, but you really can't. Like get out there and experience it yourself. Like go to a bookstore and walk around Barnes and Noble, get a book and read, just read there. Like get out of your house and just do fun stuff because I promise you, like it's easy to stay at home, but once you get out there, it's you're like, okay, I made the right decision.
I can't remember. Was it Colombia or where? Did you go somewhere else in South America? Like several years ago? Was it like 2019 or 2020 that you did that? Maybe because I feel like it was somewhere in South America that you went to that you were telling me about. It could have been Colombia.
Yes, because it was after COVID, because I'd actually planned to go to the Philippines,
Yeah.
but COVID happened and they canceled all, they shut off international flights, all that stuff. So I had this credit for this flight that they weren't going to refund me because they wanted their money. But they just credited it towards like another flight. Um, so like I had like a year to use this credit and like a year went by and I was like, you know what? This credit's about to expire, like one of the only places that allowed international travel because this was like 2021 still, so there were still some lockdowns on where you could travel to.
Yeah.
And one of the only places you could go to was like South America. So yeah, I went to Colombia first, a city called Barranquilla. It's like on the coast of Colombia. Went there. People were super nice. The food was super good. I fell in love with plantains when I was there. But yeah, it's a beautiful city, beautiful culture. Um, And then I also went to a city called Morelia in Mexico. And when I was there, dude, there was this like 200-year-old cathedral
Yeah.
there. And like this cathedral, it's like ceilings, it's like 200, like, not 200, like 100-foot ceilings.
Yeah.
Like super tall, beautiful, immaculate on the inside. And like I'm like super into history and like old architecture and stuff.
Yeah.
And like I was like mesmerized inside this place. And I like look behind me, and there's this gigantic freaking organ that was imported from Germany in the back that was also like 100 years old. And I'm like, dude, this stuff's in the world, and I'm here seeing this stuff in person. Like, that's why I got like, I'm so infatuated with traveling and seeing all this stuff. The world is so huge and diverse. You don't know it until you get out there and see it. And
Yep.
like, I'm addicted to this stuff.
Yeah. The Colombia trip is the one that I remember. That's the one that stuck with me when we talked about it because I was in your chat. This was after Mag had given you like the assets, like the intro scene and everything, where it was like the old song playing or whatever. And the way you were talking about it, I just remembered this thing you were saying. Like nobody was worried about internet. Like people were just sitting out on their porches playing like board games and Jenga and shit. And you were like, it was just the greatest, most chill experience. And it's like this is how people are supposed to communicate, like face to face. And it was just so great. He's like, you said I didn't even think about my phone, not one time. Like we were just all sitting out there having a great time, and it was a blast.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up too, because I would have forgot to talk
Yeah.
about that. But yeah, going through like the old neighborhoods, like people were just outside, like that's and like in Colombia, like you also, if you live in America, like you might feel like your life is crap and you got it bad. You don't got it bad until you've gone to a third world country and
Yep.
you've seen how some people live.
Absolutely.
Like these people, like the houses that they're living in, like they've got like mortar on the side of the buildings that's falling apart. They literally have tin roofs. They got a tin roof above their head. They don't have their plumbing to flush the toilet. You got to like go fill up like a water basket and
Yep.
dump it into the toilet to get it to flush. Like you get like we don't know how good we have it here in the United States. But and then they were just having the time of their lives, and I had the time of my life there. Like I went out and I bought Jenga, like Stamp said, and I sat outside and I played with these people, like these kids. We didn't speak the same language. Like I could barely understand what they were saying, but like we just communicated like just through the actions and playing the game. And dude, it was such a blast. I would rather do that like every single night than sit on my computer and watch debates on YouTube and all this
Yep.
crap. Like which I fall into that trap. Like I just
Yeah.
watch like and I've caught myself in the trap of like scroll like the YouTube has the shorts and just scrolling the shorts over and over again and getting that dopamine hit. Like, dude, like I could live happy being in Colombia, like not even that well off monetarily, just doing this stuff, like having fun with people.
Yeah, 100%. And that's one thing that I've really, because where I work remote, it is tough to get that in. And that's where, I really value just being on camera. Like anytime I meet with somebody at work, I'm like, let's do cameras on, because I don't like to just talk to, like I said, just somebody's initials in a fucking Zoom meeting. It is crucial. And there's something about it that's just not in online communication. It's just not there. Face to face, like you said, there could even be a language barrier, but just by, body language, a game that everybody understands universally, there is just a universal language that exists and people just understand it. They get the vibes, and it's something that the internet just can't replace.
Yeah, there's few things in this world that are universal. Music is
Yep.
universal. Like you can have a good time with people just with some music playing and just bopping and stuff to it. And then like just playing like simple games, like Jenga. You don't need to speak the same language to play that game. You
Yeah.
know what you're doing.
Yeah. We've
Um,
all seen it a million times. Yeah.
and honestly, like these days, when I think back to it, like I don't mean to sound like cheesy or anything, but like family becomes like super important. Like just like having those family nights, like playing like board games like Monopoly and stuff. Like
Yeah.
that's like such a fun time that you can't replicate sitting by yourself at home playing a video game or you know watching endless videos on YouTube surfing. Like that's the type of stuff that I'm liking in my older age.
Yeah.
But it's stuff I also liked as a kid, and I almost feel like it's way too easy to get sucked into the digital world at home, which honestly I get trapped into to this day. But
Yeah.
I make it a point to get out there.
Yeah, it's so huge too because you know, when you're isolated, you're kind of in the same scenario we were talking about in the beginning of the conversation, like with work. You get into this mentality of this is the scope of where I can go, what I can do, and it's comfortable here. I can get things done that I need to get done, but it's like there's so much out there for you to see that you can't, like you said, you had that experience of going into this super old cathedral with this massive organ. Like I guarantee seeing photos of it cannot even compare to actually being inside of it, like feeling and people talk about this all the time. Like you go into an old building, there's a full body feeling. Like you can just feel that you're in something historically significant or something that's been lived in or used for hundreds of years. Like there's just a feeling about it that cannot be translated to to watching a video or seeing photos online.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, cameo by my cat, little Dave here.
Little Dave, yeah. I still remember the story you told me about him jumping on top of a Christmas tree and riding that shit all the way down like it was a.
Bro, bro, you know the classic footage of like the guy on the atomic bomb with the cowboy
Yeah,
hat?
that's what
Like,
I was gonna say. Yeah, it was like it was a fucking A bomb. Yeah,
that's what it was. He got up there, he had like his eyes were all wide, and he's like looking around. He rode that motherfucker like all the way down. Like
ornaments shattered.
he was just missing a cowboy hat. That's the only thing. Yeah, it's dude. I had to pick that tree up like 10 times. I got sick of it.
Yeah, we can't even put a tree up anymore because both our cats start doing that. Like they'll start climbing it and pawing at it. And we bought this stuff. It's like a spray that repels cats. It didn't do shit. They looked at it, reeled back a little bit, and then just jumped into the tree. They don't
They
care.
looked at they looked at you like, you thought this would stop me? Like,
Yeah,
get real.
what an idiot. Well, I have a really interesting one to throw your way. By the way, I already tagged Gohan in the chat, but dude, you're invited to come on anytime if you want to. I feel like it'd be a really fun conversation. If it's
There he
not your,
is.
yeah, if it's not your thing, that's cool. Yeah, I was saying, Gohan, you're good, dude. Come on sometime. I'd love to have you on, and we could have a conversation. I think it'd be a really fun stream. And plus,
I,
I've never really talked to you outside of Street Fighter, like not one singular time. So I think it could be cool.
I'm not even joking. I would pay admission to see this interview.
We're gonna put this shit on pay per view. Fourteen
Yeah.
ninety nine to watch me talk to Gohan for 2 hours.
for an access code. Let's go,
Yeah,
baby.
dude. Well, I got a really interesting one for you, and feel free to let me know how far you want to go with it, or if you don't really want to get into it. But have you had any paranormal experiences? And if not, are there any conspiracy theories that you're either on the fence about or you want to actually go into and talk about?
So as for paranormal, I'm very half and half with this. Like I'm a guy that I'm a bitch when I'm home alone and I get scared by things, especially like when I was in my house alone. Not so much that I'm in like an apartment complex because I got that like I'm in an apartment complex, so what are you gonna do? Haunt the entire thing?
Yeah.
Um, but like in my house, I'm the type of guy if like the lights are off, I always think a freaking monster's gonna jump out of a dark corner and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Like I always carry little Dave around with me to protect me.
Dude,
Um,
that I was going to say really quick, there is a very popular paranormal theory that cats can see like spirits and shit. Because how many times, if you guys are cat owners or you've been cat owners, it could be the middle of the night, absolutely nothing to see. And your cat is like wide eyed staring at the wall. There's not a single fucking thing there. And it's like they can see something. So that's another
on
big paranormal theory.
100%. Or when like my cat's like looking at the ceiling,
Yeah. Like what the
like
fuck?
because I had at my old house, I had an attic, and my cat would just do this shit like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, "What are you looking at, dude? Stop doing this! It's freaking me out."
I know. Yeah, dogs too. Yeah, they'll like fixate on a it could be the middle of the night and they'll just fixate on like a wall in your kitchen and start growling and barking at it. Like, what dude,
Oh,
there's literally nothing there. What the fuck?
oh yeah, that'd be the worst if like the cat's hair gets up and like arches
Yeah.
its back up, and
Yeah.
it reminds me. Of course, you've seen oh god, the one with The Grudge,
Yep. Yep.
and you see like the mom upstairs like staring up at the ceiling. I always think of that,
Yeah.
like, cause she knew something was fudged, and so like anytime my cat would do that, it'd scare me. But like in terms of actually believing in the paranormal, I've got to go off my own experience because I just got to say I've never experienced anything like that. I've heard noises, but I'm sure there was a logical explanation for the noise.
Yeah.
Um, so on that front, I'm not completely outruling the paranormal, but I've personally never experienced it. So if I had to lean a certain way, I'd probably say no.
Yeah.
Now, on that front, I of course love watching all the paranormal shows, all that stuff, even though they're mostly all just fake and
Yeah.
stupid. But I do enjoy the concept, but I probably don't believe in it, honestly. Um, in terms of conspiracy theories, I've researched some of them. I don't know what to think. Like for some reason, like I want to lean towards. I'm sure there are some that are true, just because I know that the government's lied about tons of stuff in the past that hasn't come to light like until like 30, 40, 50 years later. We found out, oh, the government lied about all this stuff.
Didn't they just
Um,
release like a couple years ago? They released like basically all the confidential shit about JFK that just confirmed that they killed him and nobody cares. Like
really?
yeah, they pretty much just put out from what I remember, they put out a bunch of confidential shit that just like confirmed the CIA took him out and nobody seems to care.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. That'd be crazy. I don't know why they would just admit that. That seems kind of crazy to me.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess everybody involved would be dead by now, but
yeah, it's like something it was something to do with like after so many years it becomes the way that they were stored after so many years it becomes public record and they had to be released on some kind of archival I don't know. It was like some kind of clause that allowed them to be released after so many years, and it has been. I mean, that was what 1964, so it's been got 60 years, just about.
yeah, I don't know. I always heard there was one conspiracy theory I heard about that where, like in the was it the Zapruder film,
Yeah,
like you can actually see like the driver turn back and like shoot him. You ever heard about that one?
yeah, and people say that's like a Mandela effect because people say they saw that version or like they saw a version where there were more or less people in both cars, and now it's been altered or something like that. That goes into the whole Mandela effect thing, but I know what you're talking about. People have said they've seen all these different versions and they remember, seeing different things.
Yeah, I personally don't think that that's the case because that'd be so ballsy just to do it.
Yeah, for real.
Like the driver really just turns around and just blasts him. Like seriously.
Yeah.
So I'm not buying that one. The moon landing one has always been interesting to me. Um, but I've always kind of like disproven it to myself just because like we were like really in like our relations with Russia have never been great, but we
Yeah.
were really in bad relations when we were having the space race with
Yeah.
Russia. So to like based on the technology, I'm like, how did we get there based on the technology? If we've got more technology in our phones than that first spacecraft, how did we get to the moon?
Yeah.
And then the other part of me is like, well, if we beat the Russians, like the Russians would have had to been in on it to also stop their space race.
Yeah.
Because if it was fake, the Russians would have, they would have tried to disprove it themselves.
Yeah, there was the whole thing about like we brought Russia or we brought some other country moon rocks and they were found to be fake, like they were found to be artificial. And then there's the whole thing about like footprints on the moon. You can't really see them. There's the whole thing about like me and John had a huge conversation about this. If you were there that night, you remember, because he does not believe that the moon landing happened. But there's like, Neil Armstrong, the famous footage of him coming out and over the comms saying, one small step for a man and all that stuff. Like, who was holding the camera for that? If he was the first person there, like, how was there already a camera rig set up that was showing him stepping out? Like, were there two landers that went there? Like, that's just some of the stuff that he was mentioning.
I just thought that the camera, because the camera honestly was kind of close to the ladder, so I always thought the camera was just attached to the lander or whatever they call that thing.
Yeah, it's like the shot is from a distance. Like the shot is from a distance watching him step out. And it's like, wait, what's going on there? And the other thing that he mentioned is like you can see in the reflection of one of their visors what looks like a stage light where it has the it's like it kind of looks like one of those actually in a way it kind of looks like this mic the way that it is, but then it has like the four metal flaps that like reflect the light off and point it toward the stage. You can actually see a little bit of that in the visor of somebody's helmet. And when NASA officially released super, super high res images, they digitally edited that part out, that reflection that you can see in some of the other photos available online.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like parts of me wants to believe it, and then because like if we didn't go there, then like is all of NASA just a lie then? Like do they actually like just not do anything? And
Yeah,
it's just like a big front?
that's the thing, man. It's like because when people say the moon landing is fake, it's like if you are to allege that that's fake, that means every single thing that they've ever put out is called into question now, and that's a big, big slippery slope. Like,
Yeah, because then you got to take into consideration the Challenger, like the people
yeah,
dying on that. It's
yeah.
like are we just did those people not exist? Is this all fake? Like did like why would you are we just putting on a are all of our tax dollars just going to this program? Even if it was fake, like we just launched this big aircraft into the air and it just exploded, like just for no reason. It's like
Well, the thing that always confuses me is why, when you ask them about two things, why haven't we gone back to the moon and where is the telemetry data? So, if you guys don't know, telemetry data is like just a coordinate log of exactly how the lander was moving and all these things. It's crucial for them back then, especially, it was crucial for them to have that so they could guide them safely. And if you ask them where the telemetry data is, their answer is that it's all been destroyed. Nobody can explain to you why it's been destroyed, but it's all just been destroyed. It's impossible to recover. Nobody has the machines to play it back, and it's all been destroyed. And I'm just like, why?
for
Something,
all of the moon landings?
yeah, it's like for all the Apollo missions, dude. It's like no telemetry. Why would you destroy this historically significant data? Why would you do this? That's so reckless. But they've done it. And if you ask people why we haven't been back, there's this guy named Don Pettit who's like a big figurehead at NASA, and he answers a lot of questions. He does like the children's Q&A session from the International Space Station. And someone asked him like, why haven't we been back to the moon in so long? And he's like, we destroyed the technology and it's a painful process to build it back. And that's all he can tell you. It just doesn't, it's just weird. I'm not saying I don't believe it. I'm just saying their actions and the way that they have just seemingly destroyed everything having to do with it. It's weird. It is very strange.
But then you have to take into consider, okay, even if you think NASA's full of crap, what about SpaceX?
Yeah, there's a lot. There's like the China equivalent to NASA. Japan has one, and they've released footage of like spacewalks and things like that. So, you know,
So if you like, I mean, I can almost see you don't think the moon landing happened, but like, it's like, how much do you believe and how much do you not believe? Do you believe that we've done spacewalks? Do you believe that we've taken these photographs from outer space and all this
yeah,
stuff? Do you believe the Hubble telescope is real images and not just fake? It's
exactly.
like,
Yeah, if you are to call the moon landing into question, you have to decide where you stand on everything they've ever released. And that's where it always gets into that gray area of, is it all bullshit or is it not? Because if they faked something as historically significant as the moon landing, why would they be releasing legitimate photography of this, that, or the other? And the big one is the blue marble, which was the original iPhone background. And I'll pull it up on my phone. I'll make sure to put it on Do Not Disturb so I don't dox myself or I don't, leak anything. But the original blue marble photo was the first iPhone background ever. It is this famous picture right here. This that we've all seen 1,000,001 times. This picture was taken by somebody who has literally, or it was created by someone who's never been to space, has no idea what it looks like, and he admitted to using a Mac to create this image. He has no idea what the Earth looks like. And in the video of him explaining how he created it, he says, I just hit copy and paste a lot and put clouds everywhere. That's what he said.
Wow.
It's complete horseshit. And the person who drafted it admitted, I've never been to space. I've never seen it. This is what I imagine Earth would look like from space.
And you know
okay.
And a lot of people would be like, you know what? That looks legit to me.
Yeah. And the other thing is they've released several iterations of blue marble, and the continents drastically change in size every time it gets released. Like, look at this. There's a 2002 is the famous one that everybody knows. And then there's like okay, so this right here. This shows so many different like colors, so many different contrasts. The continents change size every single time. Like the US dominates over half the Earth in one of these, and then it basically doesn't exist in another one. It's just weird. And same deal with the moon landing stuff. I'm not saying it's definitive proof of anything. I'm just saying it's fucking weird. Like, look at this. These are all the different iterations of blue marble over the years. If it'll focus. Like, some of them are super dark. Some of them, the US or the North America takes up like a massive chunk of the planet. Some of them, it's really small. Like, the scale and everything just changes drastically every time they redo this photo. That's so weird.
Well, the Earth is ever changing. Come on, Sam.
Oh my God. I just got super orange all of a sudden.
You wake up one day and the United States is double the size that it used to be, It just happens.
We all know how that goes. Okay, I got to put my pasty white hand in front of it to fix it now. There we go. Look at that. Look at that. Anyways.
Look at that balancing instant, dude.
Yeah, dude. All I had to do was put the pasty hand up and it got the job done. But that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not saying definitively whether I believe it or not, because honestly, I don't have enough evidence. I'm just saying they behave very strangely about certain things, and they've admitted to things being falsified, like blue marble. So, I don't know.
Man, speaking of conspiracies, I don't believe this personally, but my mom is like a huge flat earther, and I don't know, man. I do not know how you can come up with a convincing argument about the Earth being flat. It's like, how is the sun rotating, or how are we rotating around the sun? Like, how does that all work?
That
Like,
I don't
how
even
come
know.
nobody's fallen off the edge? Like,
Yeah.
come on.
That's the biggest rabbit hole I can imagine on the internet, because there's like so much content about it, and it's all anecdotal stuff. Like, oh, if a boat goes out of your line of sight, you can pull out a super high quality like Nikon DSLR and you can zoom it, bring it back into view. That proves that there's no curvature. It's like, it's just anecdotal stuff. People say that things prove things and that they're definitive. And you just can't really. Like, the reality is, I do think appeal to authority is kind of cringe, where people are like, oh, you don't have a degree, I don't believe anything you say. That's not universally true. But with things like astrophysicists and, mathematics and geography, I can't trust, Joe Schmo who just comes out of his garage and is like, I pulled out the binoculars, this proves there's no curve, versus a person who's literally dedicated their whole life to studying these things. I'm going to choose the person who spent their life studying it.
Yeah, I mean, because there's like tons of degrees you can get where it's just like bullshit, like theory and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like when it gets to like straight up just raw mathematics, like you said, and like biosciences, it's like, come on, dude. It's like, who are you to challenge this man?
Yeah, it's like a dude that went out with a telescope or with a camera or whatever and is just doing like a garage room experiment, versus a person who has done these things millions of times and all kinds of other stuff. Like I'm with John that NASA has behaved suspiciously, but I can't go that far. I can't go to the flat earth. That's just way too far for me. That's like a completely, that's just a massive rabbit hole that I'm not willing to go down.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've said my piece on flat Earth, but I'm trying to think of any other conspiracies I mean, I don't know if it's much of a conspiracy, but like in terms of aliens, like
Mm,
I think there's definitely alien life that exists. I'm not saying it looks like anything off of the X-Files or anything like that. But I almost feel like you'd have to be ignorant to not think that there's like some form of life like out in the universe somewhere. Like our our planet is a speck of dust on like a beach. Like in terms of
yeah,
like the grand scale of the universe.
yeah,
Like even just our galaxy, we can't even comprehend our own galaxy, like let alone like the far deepest regions of space. So, in terms of like life, I don't even think it's that controversial to even say it or like a conspiracy, but I do believe there's life out there in some form or another with intelligence similar to ours.
yeah. That's the thing too. Like with flat earthers, that also plays into it because they're like, we are the only ones here. We're the center of the universe. It's like, man, it is just like you said, we're such a tiny part of the universe. If you really think about the scale of it, it like fucks you up. Like you can't even spend too much time thinking about it because it's so crazy. And yeah, and I have to agree. It's like there's either a massive amount, like infinite light years worth of wasted space, or we just haven't been made aware that there's other intelligent life yet for whatever reason. We either haven't been contacted, or if you talk to some people, it did recently just happen in a Florida mall or whatever.
Bro, speaking of space, an image that actually blew my mind. Have you heard of the Pillars of Creation?
No.
Bro, Google that right now.
Have
So,
you? I was going to say something similar though. Have you heard about that ancient city that if you look at it from the top, it looks just like a computer motherboard?
what?
Yeah, there's an
What's
ancient there's an ancient city in either Central America or South America that if you look at it from the top, it's laid out exactly like a motherboard, like capacitors, RAM slots, everything. It's crazy.
what? That's
Yeah,
where'd you say that's located?
it's in Central America or South America. I can't remember, but if you just look up city that looks like a motherboard, let me find out. Um, it is called Teo Teotihuacan. I don't really know. It's spelled like this, like that. If you look that up, the ancient city that resembles a circuit board when viewed from above.
That sounds like a city in like Mexico or something.
Yeah,
Let's look this up. Is it like an old like Aztecan city?
that's what I think. Yeah, that's how it's actually spelled. I fucked it up. But yeah, that shit is crazy. And that brings up like a whole bunch of people are like, that proves that we're in a simulation because, ancient cities resemble what we have inside of our computer cases now. And I'm like, it is fucking weird. I will admit, I definitely raised my eyebrows when I first heard about this.
So do me a favor and search for the image. Just go on Google and look up
Mhm.
Pillars of Creation.
Yeah, I got it. I got it pulled up here.
So let's take a look. So these three pillars here, and it's just like a bunch of gas that's creating planets. Like planets are like sun stars are being made inside these pillars, like way bigger than this than our sun.
Yeah.
And like I'm looking on the Wikipedia here, and it's saying the leftmost pillar is like 3 light years wide.
Yeah.
And like everybody knows what a light year is, right? It's the amount of distance that it takes for light to travel in 1 year.
Which is insanely, yeah, it's so incredibly long that like Earth metrics can't even measure it. Like miles, it would be off the fucking charts.
And it's actually there's a really cool video on YouTube where you could say how fast is a light year or how fast is the speed of light, and it says how fast does the speed of light go around Earth? The speed of light goes around Earth in like 0.08 seconds.
Yeah, it's incredibly fast. So
So
imagine how far it would go in a year.
how far it goes okay, imagine 1 year. Now imagine 4 years, and that's just the width of the first pillar, and there's
Yeah.
freaking three of them.
Yeah, it is crazy.
It's like that's the stuff in space that I geek out on, but then you got to believe that all this stuff that they're showing you from NASA
MS
is
Paint.
legit.
Yeah, somebody's busting open MS Paint and just making this shit. Can you imagine if that actually turned out to be true though? That'd be the biggest fucking rug pull of all time.
You know
Just
what? At least I enjoyed myself on the ride. That's all that matters.
yeah. Uh Dave might ban you, Buzz Lightyear to the rescue. But that's what I'm saying. Like, people also talk about the pyramids. Like, there's a prevailing theory is like the pyramids were already there, and the pyramids that the humans or the slaves tried to replicate are the smaller ones that are built nearby, but the massive, like perfectly sculpted pyramids, those are, people assume, were already there, and they couldn't have possibly been put together by humans because they're just too perfect, and geometrically they're absolutely flawless. And people think that either aliens did it or they were already here when humans like evolved enough to be able to do things like that.
Yeah, that stuff is crazy. Like, how did you make something like this back in the day? And even on a grander scale, like, and I got to see
Yeah,
it in person, the Great Wall of China.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
how did they, dude, this? So I actually got to visit like a part of it because the Great Wall of China is like stupid. I forget how long it is. Like, what is it, like 100
yeah,
miles long or something like that? Something
yeah.
stupid. Um, but dude, it's built on a mountain top, and it's like freaking what is this degree right here? What is this, like a 75?
Yeah,
No, no, no. This got to be
45
like
degree.
120. Yeah, sure. My,
Like
my math is fudged
perfectly
right now.
diagonal would be 45, but yeah,
Yeah, it's like this. You'd have trouble just walking up this mountain alone.
yeah,
And of course there's pitfalls on the side of it, but these people dragged these freaking big ass bricks up this steep mountain range, and they just made a wall all the way atop this mountain range for miles. I I went and saw it like in person, and I was like, this is freaking incredible. And
yeah,
then I drove with my brother with this other guy to a different city 2 hours away, and I fell asleep on the ride there. And I remember I woke up 30 minutes into the ride, and the guy's like, "Look, Great Wall." I'm like, "Oh shit, there's still some Great Wall going. It's all atop the mountain ranges."
yeah,
I went to sleep. I woke up an hour later. Look, Great Wall. And it's like it's still going. Like
yeah.
I'm like, this is just ridiculous. How do people make this stuff?
Yeah, and going on the topic of like ancient cities too, there's one I think it's an Aztec city where they designed it to where your voice would be amplified if you spoke from a certain point, so that like the leaders could speak, and the way that the town was designed, it would amplify their voices, and the reverberation would get to everybody. Like that's the shit that makes me think there's a lot of information that we do not fucking have anymore. Or it's like the Library of Alexandria or whatever, like, all these civilizations that have been genocided and all their info burned or whatever it happens to be. Like the fact that people knew these things and could just build shit like this willy nilly thousands of years ago makes me think, like, what the hell's going on, you know?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I laughed at what John said about.
The
I bought
Xbox
all
pads,
these. I've been to China twice, and I buy all these pads from China, and I could have just bought them there for even cheaper. So,
pennies on the
um,
dollar, dude. It's
I
ridiculous.
know, right? It's like I'm so stupid, dude. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know how people did this stuff. Like the amount of ingenuity and intuition it took to make these things is just insane. Like I know my ass is too lazy for that.
Yeah, it's like the fucking ancient Sumerians coming up with mathematics, and the Mayans coming up with the modern day calendar system and sundials and all these different things. And it's funny because you talk to some people and the Mayans were geniuses, and you talk to some other people and they were like cavemen. But it's like I'm more inclined to believe that they were a very advanced civilization from all the shit that they encountered and invented. And there was the whole thing about 2012 being the end of the world because that's where their calendar ended or whatever, but it was just a circle. And it's like, that's just, it had to end
That's
eventually, dude.
that's just how it goes.
There's only
Sorry.
360 degrees. It was going to end at some point. So, and that was freaky for me because that was the year I graduated. So we were all like, I remember when we were graduating, we were genuinely freaking out about it. Like, oh shit, the day, like December of that year. It was like December 21st, 2012 was the exact day that it was supposed to go down. And I remember waking up that day and being like nervous. I was like, oh shit, are we going to see some like wild stuff on the news? Is there going to be like flooding or whatever? And not a damn thing.
It's just like Y2K too. Everybody thought the world was going to end with the Y2K bug, and
Yeah.
ain't shit happened.
Yeah. The fucking Y2K. I remember my mom and dad were like nervous about that on whenever it actually changed over to New Year's 2000. And yep, same like you said, absolutely nothing happened.
Yeah, I mean, there's been theories like that like through all of time, like the world's gonna end. Like
Yeah.
and you see all that stuff on like YouTube too, of like the guys just standing outside like
The
New
warning
York City,
signs
like
are here, dude. Yeah. Like standing at the beaches, like it's over. And it's like, dude, they sell all their stuff. The worst one I remember hearing was like this evangelical guy. He was like on a local, like public access TV station. He had convinced like a group of maybe 25, 30 people that there was a specific day where everything was going to end. He basically took all their money and just ran. Like they went to the spot that they were supposed to meet at to just be there for the rapture or whatever. And this motherfucker literally like had the fucking sack over his shoulder with their money, got on a train and got the fuck out of there. Like what a scumbag, dude.
With the dollar bills following his trail.
Yeah, with the black and white shirt on.
He was like melting in Office Space, just sitting on the beach with the margarita, just chilling.
It's so fucked up, dude. He literally scammed people out of like their life savings and just took the money and ran like a piece of shit.
I mean, I don't know. Like I feel bad, but I almost don't feel bad. It's like, come on, dude. Like you could at least like, what's the worst that could happen? Like it just doesn't happen. Like either way, you're gonna die. You might as well just still have your job and house.
Until the day of. Like, dude, I'm not selling any of my stuff until I know for sure shit's going down.
But what's the point of selling all your stuff?
Yeah.
What are you going to use that money for?
Yeah, exactly. You're not going to need money for anything either. That's a good point. So
it's going to be over pretty soon anyway. So, I mean, you're better off just not doing anything and just waiting it out.
Yeah. But yeah, man, you know, we've been going for about 3 hours. So I was just going to ask you, like, you know, did you have any, I know you thought it was hilarious when I asked Josh if he had any questions for me and he just goes, nope.
Oh God. I was so going to be like, nope, I'm not interested. Nope.
Yeah. Do you have any questions for me? Anything you want to put out there before we wrap things up here?
I don't know. I was in a really good stamp question asking mode on my stream the other day, but I was also had a few more brewskis in. I would just say, in terms of your streaming career, like, do you feel like you're going to be doing this for like the next 5-10 years? Like, or do you feel like this is something that you think, have you thought about what you're going to be doing long term for streaming?
Well, I think streaming is something where if you really want to take it seriously, you do have to have a long-term goal in mind. I don't think this is something you can do for 3, 6, or even 9 months. I think if you really want to take it seriously, you do have to commit to years of legwork and eventually, you know, something could click and maybe you get a raid from like a massive streamer or something, or, you know, your YouTube stuff. Like just so happened to upload a YouTube video that I personally thought was dog shit and it got like 140,000 views. Like that shit is crazy to me. So I know that that's my path forward as far as, you know, if I want to grow, I need to focus heavily on YouTube. But there's just something about the live aspect of this that YouTube doesn't have. And that's why I find this infinitely more enjoyable. But I know that that's what I have to do if I really want to grow. So I would say I'm in it for the long haul. You know, I'll do this for another 5 years. I'm not expecting, you know, this to become my main thing at any point. I'm not expecting anything. When I go live, I just expect to have fun and decompress after a work day, and whatever happens, happens. But yeah, I'll do it for another 5 years, you know, because I just find it that fun.
And I also wanted to ask you, like, obviously your stream has evolved a little bit since you first started it. Obviously, when you started off, you're just like, who wants to watch me play Silent Hill, or who wants to watch me play like Resident Evil? Like now that you're doing more things, like you're doing this podcast, you do like the nightmare fuel sometimes, like on YouTube when it doesn't give you too many nightmares. Do you feel like where you're at now, do you almost feel like already have like projects in your mind, like I want to expand my stream this way, or like envision in 2 years, like this is how I envision my stream to be like different from now?
Yep, 100%. What we're doing right now is where I eventually want to steer things into more of a focus, because there's something, you know, I loved the format of an hour of just chatting into a horror game. I loved that format, but I've done it so many times. I've literally done it thousands of times. It's like, you know, probably 1,500 to 1,600 streams over the past several years have been an hour of just chatting into a horror game. And I can only do that so many times, dude. So doing this has been a complete breath of fresh air. I look forward to these interviews. I love talking with you guys. And it opens up a whole new avenue, because it's not just me sitting here yapping the same opinions and stories and things. Like, we can open up dialogue about different parts of life. Like, I can't talk to other people about going to Colombia. I can only talk to you about that because you're the only person I know that's done it. Like, so this has definitely been a breath of fresh air, and I'm not saying I'm going to stop doing the gameplay streams, but I definitely feel like this and focusing really heavily on nicely edited YouTube videos is where I should be going in terms of, you know, just enjoying streaming again the way that I used to.
Yeah, I want to be honest. Like the way that you've implemented, like involving members of the community for these podcasts is super cool and really unique. I can't wait for the Gohan's
Dude, I want him
interview.
on 100%, dude.
I'm
Gohan, you tell
super,
me a day and I will fucking make it happen, dude.
dude. I am so hyped for that. But yeah, man, this was super fun. I'm glad that you asked me to be on here, and honestly, just keep doing what you're doing and just doing your stream the way you want to, because honestly, in my opinion, it's like the most chill, comforting, like easy to watch stream ever, and I'm always engaged whenever I tune in.
I appreciate that, man. Like I said, you've been one of the longest supporters and you've messaged me like completely out of the blue. And here's the other thing too, that, just like the Columbia thing, I don't forget stuff. Like my memory is super lucid on stuff. And I just remember I was so fucking burnt out after this last October. Like I was ready to just not stream at all in November. And you hit me with a message after that, and you were like, dude, I miss the streams. This stream is, and you basically said the same thing you just did then. And I think about it all the time because I'm like, yeah, I might not feel like going live, but it's the whole aspect of providing people that content that they really enjoy. It's like, yeah, maybe I don't feel like it 100%, but I will. Like once I turn the stream on, the Silent Hill music starts playing, it's like that just disappears. And I'm just like, well, let's just have fun and relax. And, when I started out sitting under these lights, it was like, nerve-wracking because again, the first time you do something, you don't know what it's going to be like. Honestly, now I feel more comfortable sitting here on camera in literal 4K than at work sometimes. It's crazy how comfortable it is now.
Yeah, man, it's so fun, and like I think Salt was saying earlier, it's like I wouldn't be comfortable on camera. Hey, when I first started streaming, like I wasn't comfortable on camera like either. Like I thought it was
Yeah.
super weird having, even two people just staring at me while I play a video game. But dude, once you
Yeah.
once you do it after a while, it's like it's a second nature. You just don't care, and it's like this. A bunch of people are just watching me in different states anyways. Like, what's the worst that can happen unless I dox myself?
Yeah, which I've done. And whenever that happens, I would just immediately delete the VOD, start and restart OBS. That way nobody could clip it. But yeah, I've been a dumbass. I've doxed myself. Now, I will say I have had some really weird people DM me and also join my Discord. So that's, we were talking about things people may not consider. You stream enough, you will eventually get the weirdos. So if you guys are like looking into streaming serious crazy hours like I've been doing for the past several years, be ready for that and keep yourself composed because they will threaten you, they'll say some crazy shit. So yeah, just don't engage with that bullshit. Just use the block and report buttons to your advantage and just, keep the blinders on. That's all I would say.
Yeah, well, at least you didn't take your undies off and go to a Burger King and come back to still streaming.
Can't say
At
I've
least
done
you
that
haven't
one
done
yet,
that.
but hey, there's
Yeah.
always time. We'll make it happen. But yeah, man, like I said, I really appreciate you coming on. I've had a fucking blast with this conversation. I knew, anytime we get talking about stuff, like when I was in your Discord call a few weeks ago, we had a blast, and I just always enjoy talking to you, man, getting your perspective on stuff, and just checking on where you're at, and also, if people don't know, Dave recently got married, so I wanted to say while you were on here, congrats for that. Yep,
Thank you, sir.
domesticated Dave is here.
Appreciate it.
But yeah, man, we'll wrap things up, and as always, appreciate you hanging out and appreciate the support.
Yeah, appreciate you, man. Can't wait to watch the rest of the stream. Silent Hill HD collection, baby. Let's
Oh
go.
yeah, man, the dog shit collection, it starts now. All right, later, dude.
See ya.
What a nice young man. All right, guys. Well, want to say again, I really appreciate Dave hanging out. Awesome conversation with him. Sorry, I chose the wrong scene. I'm not ending the stream. We're just going to be transitioning over to Silent Hill HD. But yeah, always a really nice guy. I know, he has admitted this to me before, but he said he turns into like the worst version of himself when he plays Street Fighter. I do too, man, honestly. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed episode 12. And we will see you next week, possibly with Ultimate Gohan 400. I hope we can get him on. If it's not next week, it will be very soon. So everybody have a great rest of the night, and I will talk to you next week.